Chapter 2084 Alchemy Competition Begins. Chapter 2084 Alchemy Competition Begins. If what Ling Han had done today was known to others, they would definitely be terrified to death. He dared to even threaten the people of the ancient alchemy tower. Had he grown tired of living? But that was exactly what Ling Han had done. In any case, he had already offended the celestial king tier forces behind Tian Qinyu and the others, so what would it matter if another ancient alchemy tower was added to the bunch? Because of Ling Han's results in recognizing herbs, his stakes fell low all the way, and had in fact surpassed those of Xiao Zhang and the others. His stakes were only 1 to 1.6, and he could be considered the most popular choice for champion at present. 3 days later, the alchemy competition began. After the first round of elimination, there were roughly over 1,300 participants left. This number was still quite large. There were not that many alchemy chambers in the alchemy plaza of 100 Dragons City to accommodate so many people concocting pills at the same time. Thus, every 100 people were assigned to one group, and the competition was conducted in batches. All the competitions could be completed in about a dozen days. Ling Han, Alchemist Riang, and the others were arranged into the last group to compete. This was arranged according to their results in recognizing herbs. The better the result, the later they would be competing. And everyone also believed that the final champion would definitely emerge from this last group. Time passed quietly, and 12 days later, it was finally Ling Han's turn to compete. Ling Han set out with 3 women, and Fu Yu also came with him. They had just stepped outside when they saw Xiao Gu approach. Where have you been all this time, Xiao Gu? Ling Han asked. Though Xiao Gu's name included the word Xiao, he was actually an old bone that had existed for an unknown number of years. Thus, it was naturally impossible for him to enter into the 100 Dragons mystery realm. Who knew where he had been hanging around these few days? Where have you been all this time, Xiao Gu? Xiao Gu parroted. Even his expression and tone were exactly the same. Forget it, he had better not ask. Ling Han smiled, and continued onwards. Xiao Gu also followed behind them. Not too long after, they arrived at the Alchemy Plaza. The area was very huge, and had been especially prepared for the alchemists so that they could participate in periodic alchemist competitions. Every alchemy chamber had its own time acceleration effects of 100-fold. Thus, they would be able to successfully concoct alchemical pills usually when only 1 to 2 days had passed in the outside world. The time of concoction for a 4-star alchemical pill was about 6 months, but in the case of 5-star alchemical pills, the time of concoction would suddenly leap to thousands of years. Furthermore, this was still first heaven celestial. For 9th heaven, it might even need as extensive a time as one counted in epochs. For the moment, at least, no one had concocted a 4-star alchemical pill, so the competition among the last few groups had all been settled within a day. Everyone entered their alchemy chambers one after another, and there would be an alchemist and 3 alchemist apprentices in charge of invigilation outside each alchemy chamber to prevent any cheating. Of course, the spectators could also take the role of invigilators. Ling Han also entered, sat down, and then waited for the competition to begin. Everyone had to prepare their own alchemical ingredients. Of course, the alchemical pill that was concocted would also belong to them. What alchemical pills should he concoct? If he wanted a safer route, he definitely should concoct a 3-star alchemical pill. But it was said that Alchemist Riang, Wu Zishiu, and the others were all only a mere step away from being a 4-star alchemist, and they might break through in the alchemy competition this time. Going by that logic, the lead and advantage that Ling Han had gained in recognizing herbs would be erased. Even if their results were the same, a 4-star alchemist would definitely be able to achieve 5th refinement. Then, in the 3rd test of spirit refinement, they would definitely obtain a true advantage. Ling Han shook his head. He could not accept failure. Then, it had to be a 4-star alchemical pill. Fighting spirit burned fiercely in Ling Han's heart. He had not successfully concocted a 4-star alchemical pill before. He always missed that one last step, and kept feeling like there was something lacking. Would the pressure this time become his motivation? Ling Han wanted to give it a try. If he failed? Then he would have failed. In the first place, he had not much interest in entering the ancient alchemy tower. The reason why he was showing off so much here was merely to draw Lu Hairong over so that she could bring them to the Rock Palace. Yuan Tongguang actually used the matter of entry into the ancient alchemy tower to threaten Ling Han. He was really, overwhelmingly wrong. Fine, Ling Han decided he would just concoct a 4-star alchemical pill. A hint of mania was present in Wu Zixu's eyes. At first, he had planned to concoct a 3-star alchemical pill, the Ice Phoenix pill, that was the hardest to concoct among 3-star alchemical pills, but now he had changed his mind. That should not be able to defeat Ling Han. A 4-star alchemical pill. He felt like a layer of something in his heart was about to be penetrated. This was a sign that he was about to break through to become a 4-star alchemist. Previously, he had experienced the same thing before, but none of those times had been as strong as this, making him feel a strong premonition that he would definitely succeed today. Just wait, he was the true top prodigy of alchemy. Alchemist Riang touched his cauldron tenderly. It had accompanied him for over 10 billion years, and could completely be considered as another part of his body, and its value had surpassed his lover, children, and all others. Usually, no one would even be allowed to touch it. But as he touched it, the force of his palms suddenly increased. Multiple cracks immediately appeared in the walls of the cauldron, and instantly covered its entirety. This cauldron had actually been shattered from the brute force. A cauldron was usually meant to resist heat during pill concoction, so their resistance to brute force was very weak. Who would strike their cauldron harshly when they were concocting alchemical pills? An expression of heartache appeared on Alchemist Riang's face, but there was more resolution in his eyes. Without destruction, there could be no construction. He had not broken through all this while, because he had stayed too long in his memories of past glories, and he was reluctant to leave these memories behind. But now, there was a reason that he had to obtain victory. Thus, he had destroyed the cauldron that represented his past with his own hands. Today was a new beginning. A powerful change suddenly took place in Alchemist Riang's aura. His eyes became sharp, and it was like he became a completely different person. The path of a 4-star Grand Master began from today onwards. That face of Xie Yuzhang that had constantly been smiling finally showed a true smile. He was the standard character with slowly maturing talent. He had actually spent as many as 1 billion years to become a 1-star alchemist, but he had only spent 1 billion years as well to become a 2-star alchemist and a 3-star alchemist. Another 1 billion years had passed, and he had enough confidence he could become a 4-star alchemist, and now was the trigger for him to push open the doors to becoming a 4-star alchemist. Fan Luoling conformed with the norms. She decided to concoct a 3-star alchemical pill, and it was the phase pill that she was most proficient at too. There was no need for it to be too difficult, because she had a secret weapon. The person to win will definitely be me. Lin Yongcheng's expression was filled with arrogance. Who would have known that he had already become a 4-star Grandmaster 60 years ago? The strongest alchemists here were only 3-star alchemists, so he was completely being a bully here. Actually, he had almost succeeded at the 8th stage when he was recognizing herbs. He had only made a slight error, which had resulted in his ultimate failure. However, in the field of pill concoction, he had absolute confidence. He was not concerned about the championship, and would take the initiative to withdraw from the competition once he shocked the masses with his outstanding accomplishments. What he wanted was merely the shocked and disbelieving expressions of the spectators, which would make him feel very self-satisfied and pleased. And then, he would come around with a glamorous withdrawal from the competition, which would allow him to show off to the extreme. Just a mere 3-star alchemist, and you actually dare one-up me? This time, I'll let you know what a true prodigy is like. The spectators had all arrived, anticipating the start of the alchemy competition. Unlike recognizing herbs, where they couldn't really see much of anything, pill concoction was extremely bustling with noise and excitement. Why is the crystal wall on Fan Luoling's side so blurry that we can only make out the vague outline of the person, yet cannot see the herbs in her hands clearly? Someone suddenly asked strangely. Chapter 2085 Respective Successes. Chapter 2085 Respective Successes. There seemed to be a problem with that alchemy chamber of Fan Luoling. From the outside, only a very vague outline could be seen. Though she could still be distinguished, and it was indeed her, all other details were too blurry. Someone gave that feedback, but the response from the ancient alchemy tower was that this alchemy chamber had some slight problem, but now that the competition was about to begin, it was impossible to call a halt to the proceedings, which would affect the others. In any case, it was only a little blurry, and would not affect the greater scale of things, so it was fine. Though this kind of explanation was very dissatisfactory to everyone, who would dare to doubt the words of someone from the ancient alchemy tower? There was no problem, so the competition would begin. At a command, the competition for the final group began. Ling Han had long since started studying 4-star alchemical pills, and had also obtained guidance from Grandmaster Zi Qing. He had discussed alchemy a great many times with this Grandmaster, and was only a step away from success. He took out his celestial medicines. Concocting a celestial pill naturally needed celestial medicines, but with the difference of star value of various alchemical pills, the requirement of age for the celestial medicines would also differ. Ordinarily, concocting a 3-star alchemical pill would need celestial medicines that were 10 billion years old, and 4 stars would need celestial medicines aged 100 billion years old. As for 5-star alchemical pills, the celestial medicines needed would have to be trillions of years old. In fact, it would not be strange for the celestial medicines to be an epoch old, either, which naturally would be 9th heaven's celestial star. Even Ling Han only had a small portion of this kind of celestial medicine. That was a portion of root that looked completely ordinary. It looked like ginger, but in terms of value, it would make the majority of 4-star alchemists feel embarrassingly short of money. Tortoise Tukaho, aged 400 billion years old, was specially prepared for him by Grandmaster Zi Qing. Even an extremely wealthy person like Grandmaster Zi Qing would feel pain to hand out this kind of treasure. Ling Han also felt heartache because this Tortoise Tukaho could not be used many more times. Previously, he had already attempted concoction a good few times, and the expenditure of the celestial medicine was very high. This was a main ingredient. Of course, there were also some supplementary ingredients. The majority of them were saintly medicines, and there were some that were celestial medicines aged around 100 million years old. Ling Han took a deep breath, and did not rush to begin pill concoction. There were time acceleration effects of 100-fold here, and time was comparatively less valuable here. Additionally, the time period for the competition was as long as 10 days, and under the acceleration effects, it would be around 3 years. To concoct a 4-star alchemical pill, this naturally was more than enough time, and he could afford to fail quite a few times. Ling Han calmed his emotions, and after a whole 7 days, he finally began moving. The moment he started, he was like thunder, as fast as lightning. Under the time acceleration effects, time passed very quickly. Very soon, 3 months had already passed. Pa! The cauldron exploded, and Ling Han's face was also charred black from the explosion. I still have 2 chances, Ling Han murmured. Now, it was not time that was lacking, but rather that the ingredients in his possession were only enough for 2 more attempts of pill concoction. He was not in a rush to begin his second attempt, but rather closed his eyes to review the details of his failed attempt. It was a shame that he couldn't enter into the Black Tower under the eyes of the masses. Otherwise, if he underwent reflection underneath the reincarnation tree, it would only be a blink of an eye. He sat unmoving for a whole half-year's time, and then began his second attempt. Everything progressed very smoothly, but when it came to the 5th month, the cauldron exploded again. I'm just that bit away from the finishing line. Ling Han felt it was very much a pity. If I had 3 more portions of ingredients in my possession, I would have absolute confidence that I could succeed, but now, I am only left with the last chance. I will either succeed or die trying. He began to sit in reflection again. Then, in another half-year's time, Ling Han's eyes snapped open, revealing an absolute confidence. He would definitely succeed this time. He was the kind of person that the more pressure there was on him, the more he could explode with endless motivation. And now, there was already no way out for him, but he did not feel the slightest bit of anxiety or nervousness. Instead, his fighting spirit blazed, and his confidence soared. His yearning for success filled him with excitement. Come! He began his third and also final attempt of pill concoction. If he still failed this time, then he could only choose to concoct a 3-star alchemical pill. On the outside, there were people gradually coming out of their alchemy chambers. Some people had long since succeeded, but were not satisfied with their present results, and wished to concoct alchemical pills that would be more satisfactory, and so were still continuing their pill concoction there. However, when the 8th day in the outside world arrived, the majority had already ended their pill concoction and exited their respective alchemy chambers. They handed over their alchemical pills so that they could be assessed. The doors of an alchemy chamber opened, and a young man with lanky build walked out. Look, Wu Zixu has come out. What kind of alchemical pill has he concocted? With so much time having passed, it must be a 4-star alchemical pill. That's not definite. It is possible that he has concocted a considerable number or cauldrons of 3-star alchemical pills, right? Under the spirited discussions of the masses, Wu Zixu strode out, a sliver of pride in his expression. He had succeeded. He had not been crushed by the pressure, but had instead successfully surpassed himself, and succeeded in opening the doors to the threshold of a 4-star alchemist. From now onwards he could be addressed as Grand Master, a true Grand Master of alchemy. He handed over the alchemical pill that he had concocted to be appraised by the alchemist outside, his hands crossed behind his back, appearing to be filled with confidence. Semi-deficiency Dao pill, 4 stars, normal standard. That alchemist gave out his conclusion after a simple observation. Instantly, uproar arose in the surroundings. A 4-star alchemical pill. Finally, someone had concocted a 4-star alchemical pill, and so far, this result was undoubtedly the best. As expected of Wu Zixu, he completed his breakthrough under such pressure, and became a 4-star alchemist. Heavens, just how old is this guy, and he is already a 4-star alchemist. Sigh, this is what natural talent is, which we cannot envy. Everyone was looking at Wu Zixu enviously. The people who had come to take part in the competition this time were basically all 3-star alchemists, and 2-star alchemists, and 1-star alchemists would not have the face to come at all. At most, they would only test their skill at recognizing herbs in the first test. The difference between 3 stars and 4 stars was the difference between Immortal Palace tier and Ascending Origin tier. It was so huge that it was like a whole world of difference. It must be Wu Zixu that is the first place this time. After this test, he will be able to catch up to Ling Han in marks, but a 4-star Grand Master would definitely attain 5th refinement in spirit refinement. Thus, he would definitely still be able to win in the 3rd test. I have already said that Wu Zixu would definitely be the champion this time round. Thankfully, I wagered on Wu Zixu becoming champion, and my bet is a whole several 100,000 star stones. I have also bet all my wealth on Wu Zixu. Just at this moment, the doors of an alchemy chamber opened again, and a white-bearded old man walked out. Alchemist Riang. How is it? How is it? Everyone was curious. He was a veteran alchemist, and it was long said that he would become a 4-star alchemist, but year after year passed, and Alchemist Riang was still stagnating. However, no one has ever dared to look down on him. Alchemist Riang broke into a smile, and spread open his hand. There was a round purple-colored alchemical pill lying in the palm of his hand. Fantasy Purple Jade Pill, 4 stars. An alchemist beside him blurted out, and then bowed to Alchemist Riang. Congratulations, Alchemist Riang. You have finally advanced into the ranks of 4-star alchemists. Alchemist Riang smiled faintly, and rubbed his beard, appearing very reserved. However, the curled-up corners of his lips betrayed him. He was clearly extremely proud of himself internally. Now, the situation is hard to determine. Chapter 2086 Black Tortoise Earth Pill. Chapter 2086, Black Tortoise Earth Pill. One pill concoction contest had actually led to the emergence of 2 4-star Grandmasters. This was something that had never occurred in previous alchemy competitions. It was exciting. Now only would there be suspense about the final results. Otherwise, if the candidate for champion had already been determined before the third contest had even begun, how boring would that be? Right at this moment, the doors of an alchemy chamber opened, and a third prodigy of alchemy walked out. Xiao Gu. No way, has he also advanced into the ranks of 4-star Grandmasters? Hard to say. That's right. If someone had told me that one alchemy competition could actually help 3 people to simultaneously break through to become 4-star Grandmasters in the past, I would never have believed it. But now, I really can't be certain. Xiao Gu's face still bore a faint smile, and he spread open the palm of his right hand. There was a dark green alchemical pill lying within. Is this a green jade pill? Very similar, but the green jade pill is only 3 stars. In the end, Xiao Gu had not continued the legend and maintained the amazing feat of advancement that would happen only once in a billion years. That is not realistic, after all. How many people would be able to do so? Everyone shook their head, feeling that it was really a shame for Xiao Gu. In the contest among several great prodigies of alchemy, someone had finally fallen behind. However, the eyes of that alchemist responsible for invigilation lit up. He looked at that dark green alchemical pill for a while, and solemnly declared, 3 golden dragon veins are faintly discernible. This is not the green jade pill, but rather the golden dragon sea waves pill. What? Hearing this kind of evaluation, everyone erupted in a commotion. The golden dragon sea waves pill was a genuine 4-star alchemical pill. This was another newly promoted 4-star Grandmaster. Heavens, what day was it today? 4-star Grandmasters emerged one after another, as if the heavens themselves were bestowing good fortune on this day. This is like having encountered an age of prosperity for cultivation. Sometimes, several 100 billion years would pass, and not a single celestial king would emerge, but when it is an age with prodigies emerging frequently, there will also be a wave-like appearance of celestial kings, and their numbers would be greatly astonishing. Still, to personally witness this scene would make me numb with shock. A smile of pride curled up the corners of Xiao Gu's lips. Then, he turned to look over at Wu Zixu and alchemist Hairong. There was no need for him to show them reverence, because they were all 4-star Grandmasters. Next, it would be up to their standards and spirit refinement. 5th refinement was definite, but the exact standards were definitely going to be different. Right at this moment, Fan Luoling also walked out. Before anyone could react, she stretched out her hand to the alchemist in charge of invigilation. The latter also quickly took it over. The whole process was astonishingly fast. In fact, because of the cover provided by both of their sleeves, others did not even know what that alchemical pill looked like. Black Gold Celestial Bone Pill, 4 stars, low grade. That alchemist spread open his right hand, and there was an alchemical pill as dark as iron in the palm of his hand. Another 4-star Grandmaster? Everyone exchanged looks. However, no one made a fuss this time. Instead, they all looked incredibly doubtful. What did they mean by their actions? There was a clear rule that the crystal walls of the alchemy chamber had to be absolutely transparent so those outside could observe clearly. Furthermore, when the alchemical pill was submitted, the alchemical pill also had to be very obviously displayed. This was to prevent any form of cheating. However, when Fan Luoling was concocting her alchemical pill, the crystal walls were very blurry and unclear, and the spectators could not see clearly at all. Moreover, the time when she submitted her alchemical pill was also incredibly ambiguous. And now an alchemical pill had been suddenly produced, announcing that she had concocted a 4-star alchemical pill. How could they be convinced? Hence, after a momentary silence, the area immediately erupted into chaos. A considerable number of people raised objections. It was not like the relationship between Fan Luoling and Yuan Tongguang was unknown, and now for them to suddenly do something like this, Who would not suspect that there was something off here? What's all the noise about? Yuan Tongguang appeared, his eyes sweeping over the masses, his gaze bearing a lot of disdain. Don't you know that this will affect the others competing? Whoever dares to argue will be immediately removed. This kind of attitude caused even more displeasure. Weren't you guys just clearly cheating like this? I request that this black gold celestial bone pill's age is examined. Someone suddenly proclaimed. That's right, examine the age. This suggestion obtained the approval of a great number. If this alchemical pill had been concocted by Fan Luoling, then the time of pill concoction definitely could not surpass 3 years added with the time acceleration effects. Thus, if it had surpassed this age, it had to have been concocted by someone else. Examine the age as a show of fairness. Fairness! Fairness! More and more people were calling out in suit. Some were indeed filled with a great sense of righteousness, while some were merely delighting in the chaos. Yuan Tongguang's expression was very ugly, his face extremely dark. As the grandson of a great elder of the ancient Alchemy Tower, couldn't he even settle this small matter? Didn't he just want a championship? What was so difficult about it? Right at this moment, the doors of an alchemy chamber were opened once more, and Lin Yongchang walked out. With a casual toss, he threw out a crimson-red alchemical pill. Crimson Flame Earth Fire Pill! Lin Yongchang's invigilator alchemist couldn't help but stretch out his hand to catch it. His eyes swept over it, and an expression of shock immediately came over his face because this was yet another 4 stars alchemical pill. What? This is too amazing! Everyone was exclaiming in shock. A great many people had been stunned by this news, and had temporarily forgotten the matter of investigating Fan Luoling. Grade medium! Immediately, the uproar in the masses became even louder. Medium grade, it was actually medium grade. While those like Xie Yuzhang and alchemist Riang had concocted 4-star alchemical pills as well, those had only reached low grade. This was actually very normal. Who would be able to reach medium grade immediately upon advancing to become a 4-star alchemist? However, Lin Yongchang was an exception. No. No one could be an exception. For this person to be able to concoct a medium grade 4 stars alchemical pill, there could only be one possibility. He had long since become a 4-star alchemist. Heavens, so young. The flame of life would tell no lies. This guy had only been alive for several 100 million years at most, yet he was actually a 4-star grandmaster. Inconceivable, this was too inconceivable. Everyone looked at Lin Yongchang with eyes filled with reverence. They could not help admitting that they were impressed by such a young 4-star grandmaster, and one whose standards of pill concoction had reached medium standard at that. Lin Yongchang showed a reserved smile. All he had to do now was wait for Ling Han to come out. He would first humiliate this guy, and then announce his withdrawal from the competition in a high-profile manner, and that would be posh enough. Very coincidentally, the doors of the final alchemy chamber were also pushed open, and Ling Han appeared. He looked a little battered, with specks of black on his robes. Those had resulted from the cauldron exploding, and he had not managed to tidy up previously. Ling Han, where is your alchemical pill? Lin Yongchang spoke up. He could no longer wait to deliver a strike on Ling Han's pride. Ling Han glanced at him, and countered. What are you rushing me for? Are you the invigilator? Lin Yongchang's face couldn't help but flush red with this rebuff, showing an expression of indignation and anger. However, he knew that he was no match for Ling Han, so it was naturally impossible that he would take the initiative to seek his own humiliation. He could only glare angrily at Ling Han. He only had to wait a while longer. There was no need for him to lose his cool. Ling Han did not cast a second look at Lin Yongchang. Spreading open his right hand, there was a crystalline, almost transparent, alchemical pill lying in the palm of his hand. There was a green tortoise in the core of the pill. It was tiny, yet looked vivid and realistic. It was even moving its 4 limbs, as if it was about to swim out of the alchemical pill. Black Tortoise Earth Pill! Immediately, those in the surroundings all exclaimed in shock. 4 stars alchemical pill, and the difficulty level of pill concoction was not low either. Chapter 2087 Absolute Injustice. Chapter 2087 Absolute Injustice. How's it possible? Lin Yongchang immediately exclaimed in shock, the arrogance in his expression completely swept away. Black Tortoise Earth Pill was an alchemical pill that was extremely hard to concoct, even among 4-star alchemical pills. Ordinarily, there was absolutely no way that a rookie would be able to choose this kind of alchemical pill to accomplish their breakthrough. Could it be that Ling Han was a wolf in sheep's clothing? He was clearly a 4-star alchemist, yet deliberately concealed his identity? Grade low? After a period of appraisal, that alchemist once again announced his verdict. Lin Yongchang couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Though the difficulty level of pill concoction for Black Tortoise Earth Pill was higher than his pills, the grade of his completed pill was medium. Overall, it was still he who had the upper hand, though this advantage was not very obvious. This could offset a portion of Ling Han's advantage in recognizing herbs, but to be fair, it definitely could not completely erase it. However, as long as he continued to gain an advantage in spirit refinement, he could still attain the place of final champion. At first, he had planned to ruthlessly crush Ling Han in this test of pill concoction, and then withdraw from the competition in a high-profile manner, showing off as much as possible. But now, it was no longer possible for him to withdraw. If he withdrew from the competition whilst he was at a disadvantage, everyone would think that he was afraid of Ling Han. Could he possibly be afraid? Let's battle it out. This time, Lin Yongchang's fighting spirit had really been stirred up. He felt a pressing need to defeat Ling Han. All right, now that everyone has already completed pill concoction, let's begin to total up the results. An alchemist from ancient Alchemy Tower said. He was a 4-star Grandmaster, and had been famous for an extremely long time. Thus, even if Ling Han and the others were also freshly promoted to the same rank as him, they still had to show him appropriate respect. This was etiquette. This process was very fast because the results of the members of the last over 12 groups had long since been added up. They only had to add the results of these 100 participants, and the overall results would emerge. Concocting a 4-star alchemical pill would attain a mark, and the higher the difficulty level of concoction, and the grade of the completed alchemical pill, it would affect this mark, whether it would be raised or adjusted. Finally, the results were announced. First place was Lin Yongchang, 100 points. There was no argument about this. The Crimson Flame Earth Fire pill he concocted had reached medium grade. Though the difficulty level of its concoction was slightly lower than Black Tortoise Earth pills, it was still slightly superior. Second place was actually Fan Luoling, 97 points. Fuck. This was too shady, wasn't it? It was still a question whether that black gold celestial bone pill had actually been concocted by her, and to actually so shamelessly bestow the second place on her. Furthermore, even if it was indeed she who had concocted it, considering the ordinary difficulty level of concoction added together with its low grade, just what gave her the basis to emerge superior to the others? But what could they do even if they were unconvinced? The people of the ancient Alchemy Tower ignored all objections. This was the final result. Third place was Wu Zixu, 96 points, and then the fourth place was Alchemist Riang, 95 points, fifth place was Xia Yuzhang, 94 points, and only then was it Ling Han, 92 points. He was only sixth, and had only gotten 92 points. It should be known that the difficulty level of pill concoction for the Black Tortoise Earth pill was high, surpassing the alchemical pills that Alchemist Riang, Wu Zixu, and the others had concocted, and while the grade of the completed pill was inferior to Lin Yongchang's, it was the same grade as all the others. Then Ling Han should have been ranked in second place, and should have gotten 98 or 99 points at least, shouldn't he? 92 points? How did they come up with this figure? Even the others were all very dissatisfied by this mark. Though Wu Zixu and the others were contesting with Ling Han, they similarly were dissatisfied because what they wanted was not this kind of victory, but to defeat Ling Han in a bold and forthright manner. To win through underhanded means, what meaning was there to it? And combined with that ambiguous alchemical pill from Fan Luoling, how could they not tell that this was the ancient alchemy tower deliberately supporting her? Since that was the case, even if Wu Zixu and the others could defeat Ling Han, they would ultimately still lose to Fan Luoling. This was too shady. How could they be so underhanded and shameless? Added with the results on recognizing herbs, the rankings and marks were as follows. First place, Lin Yongchang, 197 points. Second place, Fan Luoling, 193 points. Third place, Ling Han, 192 points. Fourth, Wu Zixu, 191 points. Fifth place was shared by alchemists Riang and Xiao Zhang, 190 points. Not only had Ling Han fallen to the third place, there was a total gap of a whole 5 points between him and Lin Yongchang. This was practically an irreversible disadvantage. He had to achieve a massive lead in spirit refinement to be able to make up for this gap in points. But going by how they were purposely causing trouble for him now, even if he did get a very great lead, would they even give him the points that he deserved? 10 days later, the top 100 will proceed to undergo the third contest of spirit refinement. With a command from that 4-star alchemist, the end of the second contest was announced. When the news spread out, the masses erupted in uproar. Shady, this was a great shady business. The most greatly discussed was the matter of that alchemical pill from Fan Luoling, whether it was she who had concocted it, and whether it had been replaced. 99% of the masses believed that it had been replaced. Otherwise, why did they have to be so secretive? And why did they not agree to further assess that alchemical pill? And the other most discussed issue was how Ling Han was being suppressed. He should have been able to place second in this test of pill concoction. In fact, he should have been first place in terms of overall results, yet now he had dropped down to third place, falling behind Lin Yongchang by a total of whole 5 points, which was equivalent to having lost the competition. Whom has Ling Han offended here? It must be someone from the ancient alchemy tower. I heard that it was already decided that Fan Luoling would get the first place, so they definitely want to get rid of Ling Han. Then, why wasn't Lin Yongchang also beaten down on this? Fuck, how should I know? Tongues were wagging spiritedly outside, and there were also voices of disagreement inside the ancient alchemy tower too. Some people thought that they should not have been so unfair, but this kind of opinion was quickly suppressed by the combined efforts of Lin Yongchang and Yuan Tongguang. The elders of these two were both 5-star grandmasters. How many people would be willing to throw everything on the line to offend them? With a few words from a 5-star grandmaster, it was possible even the dome of heaven would collapse. In the world of cultivators, celestial kings were gods, and in the world of alchemists, 5-star alchemists were similarly existences that were equivalent to gods. In the inn, Fuyu was also indignant. They have really gone too far. How could they be so shameless? He slapped a hand on the table, even more anxious than Ling Han himself. Those not in the know would have thought that it was he that had suffered such an unjust treatment. Ling Han rubbed his chin, his brow wrinkled in a slight frown. In a fair competition, he did not fear anyone, but if his opponents were going to play dirty, and in such a shameless way at that, how was he supposed to win? Even if he surpassed Lin Yongchang in the spirit refinement 10 days later, unless he achieved the astonishing and absolute crushing victory of 6th refinement versus 5th refinement over him, there would still be no way he could turn this disadvantageous situation around. But the problem here was, how could Ling Han possibly attain 6th refinement in 10 days? To say nothing of 10 days, he might not be able to succeed even in 1,000,000,000 years. From 5th refinement onwards, every step forwards was as difficult as climbing up to the heavens. Then what was he to do? Just allow himself to be bullied like this? Kill Lin Yongchang. The Empress suddenly spoke up, her voice icy cold. That's right, kill that bastard! Hu Niu immediately jumped up, waving her little fists around. Meanwhile, Fuyu got a huge scare. Afterwards, he had also found out that Lin Yongchang's background was even more powerful than that of Yuan Tongguang. The former's father was an elder of the ancient alchemy tower, a 5-star alchemist. Kill Lin Yongchang? Hiss, To say nothing of the fact that he was in the 100 Pills Palace, with elites standing guard. Even if he could be killed, this would mean piercing a hole into the heavens. Just how terrifying consequences would result from that? Chapter 2088, Poison. Chapter 2088, Poison. Ling Han thought for a while, and then clapped his hands. There's only one way. He had absolutely zero trust in Fan Luoling's abilities. She had to have obtained this kind of result through cheating, and in the area of spirit refinement, he only had to have a clear victory over her, and it would definitely be no issue for him to surpass her results. The only one in his way was Lin Yongchang, and Ling Han originally should have been ranked ahead of him. He only had to even out the gap between them, and he would be able to get first place. Since he was so determined to seek death, what could be done? Ling Han, you've gone mad! Fu Yu came back to his senses, and hurriedly called out after a moment of being stunned. Ling Han really had gone crazy. To actually want to kill an heir of the ancient Alchemy Tower in 100 Dragons City? Just how tired of life was he? Then what you mean is that I should just bear with this kind of injustice? Ling Han looked at him. Fu Yu couldn't help but be rendered speechless. However, he immediately said, "But you definitely cannot do this. There is absolutely no way you would succeed. This is 100 Dragons City, and there would be ascending origin tier elites standing guard in the alchemy chamber. If you want to commit a crime, the only one who will die is you." Ling Han broke into a grin. That's right. It would be much too dangerous. Fu Yu quickly nodded. Ling Han patted his shoulder. Then you make the move for me. Fu Yu immediately wanted to throw up blood. He had no wish to be dragged in. I can't make a move, and it's pointless even if you want to as you're too weak. Ling Han withdrew his hand while commenting disdainfully about Fu Yu at the same time. That's right. Hu Niu clapped her hands to express her agreement. And trash. The Empress was the same as well. Fu Yu was about to go crazy. Why were the brains of these people so different from others? It was not a question of whether it was possible to kill Lin Yongchang at all, but rather the problem was that the latter could not be touched or killed. That could cause a gigantic storm. However, there is someone that can, Ling Han said smilingly, his gaze turned on Xiao Gu. However, there is someone that can. Xiao Gu saw this, and thought that Ling Han was playing with him, involuntarily imitating his words. Xiao Gu, help me kill a person. Xiao Gu, help me. Xiao Gu copied every single word. Ling Han breathed a sigh. To have Xiao Gu kill someone for him seemed to be unrealistic. Aside from imitating words, this guy would only passively defend. The only thing that could make him actively attack would be the cultivators of the alternative cultivation system. What to do now? Furthermore, it was indeed like what Fu Yu had said. Lin Yongchang was an heir of the ancient alchemy tower, and the defenses around him would definitely be very strong. To kill him in absolute secrecy was not very realistic. Even if Xiao Gu was willing to move, with the silly temperament of this guy, the whole world would probably find out in the end. Then, Xiao Gu would also have to be set aside for now. I got it. Ling Han suddenly smacked his thigh. Success would have to depend on my luck. He moved out alone, heading towards the Alchemy Palace, but he was not aiming for Lin Yongchang, but rather searching for an alchemy chamber. The next contest was spirit refinement, and a tool needed for spirit refinement would be a ready-made alchemical pill. To ensure that there was no cheating taking place, such alchemical pills were prepared by the ancient alchemy tower, but they were all one-star alchemical pills. Thus, there was no need to worry even if spirit refinement failed, as loss would be limited. What Ling Han hoped was that the users of these alchemical pills had been prearranged. He used the regulations of space, his figure moving like a ghost. Even a dividing soul tier elite would find it very difficult to discover any traces of him. However, this would not be able to fool immortal palace tiers. Who is it? A figure suddenly raced out of his room. It was a man of astonishingly tall build. His face was filled with suspicion. He had clearly sensed an unfamiliar presence, but when he came out, he had not discovered anything at all. Had he been cultivating too hard recently, and gone mad? He surveyed for another while, and then only did this man return to his chambers. Ling Han came out of the Black Tower. This was his true support, and regulations of space was only adding on to the perfection. Xiao, that large man, raced out again, the suspicion in his expression even more pronounced. That was because he had once again sensed that unfamiliar presence. But he did not find anything when he ran out, which made him feel like he was about to go crazy. He circled around in the vicinity, and then returned to his room. Ling Han once again appeared from the Black Tower, and leaped forwards. Xiao, that large guy, ran out again. His eyes were even a little bloodshot by now. What was going on here? Had he really gone crazy? This time, he used his divine sense to carefully search every inch of the ground, but still did not discover anything, making him almost want to tug at his hair in irritation. Pang! He went into his room, and slammed the doors heavily behind him. When Ling Han appeared once more, the large man did not appear again. He probably really thought that he had gone mad, and was having a serious case of delusions. Actually, there is no need to go to so much trouble. Small Tower suddenly spoke up. You only have to activate the source powers of heaven and earth, and even a celestial king would find it very hard to discover your presence. Since the source powers of heaven and earth contain the words heaven and earth, they naturally are a portion of the heaven and earth. If you use the source powers, you would be one with the heaven and earth. Even a celestial king would not deliberately do a sweep with their divine sense, and thus it would be impossible to discover your presence. Fuck. Ling Han gritted his teeth. Why didn't you tell me earlier about such an important matter? Looks like I have thought too highly of your intelligence. I thought you would have thought of it, Small Tower said. Small Tower was again treating him with disdain. Ling Han did not bother with it. He used the source power of wood because the wood and earth in this great palace was present the most. Since he did not have the source power of earth, he could only use the source power of wood. Wang divine sense swept out, directly passing over him without the slightest pause. This was an ascending origin tier elite. Ling Han nodded. It was just as how Small Tower had said. This elite treated him like a tree in the Alchemy Palace, and naturally would not pay overly much attention to him. Going by that logic, should he change his mind, and directly head to kill off Lin Yongchang? This thought only flashed through his mind before disappearing. The moment he moved, his aura would be immediately exposed without reservations. Even if he managed to enter into the Black Tower in time, and his appearance was not glimpsed by that ascending origin tier elite, he only had to leave behind a trace of his aura, and that would be even worse than having someone actually glimpse his appearance. It was because appearances could be changed, while auras could not. At least it was very, very hard to do so. He had best just do as he had planned. Unless the situation differed from what he thought. In that case, he would go and seek out Lin Yongchang. Even if he did not kill him, he would draw him into the Black Tower, imprisoning him till he was satisfied. He searched for a long while, and finally arrived at the alchemy chamber. Lucky, there are no protective formations. Ling Han smiled. True, with an ascending origin tier elite standing guard, what need was there for defense here? Ling Han pushed open the doors, and searched around inside. As expected, he found a rack, and there were 100 boxes on the rack. There were 3 alchemical pills that had not undergone spirit refinement yet placed in each box. Furthermore, a person's name was written down on each box, and they were all the people who had advanced to the 3rd round. Lin Yongchang. Ling Han immediately found the box that had Lin Yongchang's name written down on it. It was the first box on the first shelf. After he opened it, he took out the red spot and poison fruit. There was a pitifully small amount, merely a few drops of liquid. He cautiously dripped it on one of the alchemical pills. It was not that he did not want to drip the poison on the other 2 alchemical pills, but rather that the poison had been used up. I'll give you a way of survival. If you only execute spirit refinement on 1 or 2, and just coincidentally avoided this one, that would really be your luck, Ling Han said. If it were not Lin Yongchang and Yuan Tonghuang who had used such underhanded means in the first place, he would not have condescended to do this, either. But who asked them to be underhanded first? In that case, he could only say sorry. Chapter 2089 Secret Intervention. Chapter 2089 Secret Intervention. Ling Han left the Alchemy Palace quietly, and returned to the inn, as if nothing had happened. He had already done what he should do, and whatever came next would be up to fate. Another few days passed, and the third competition began. 100 participants arrived once more at the Alchemy Plaza. Though the majority of them had no hopes of coming in top 3, none of them wanted to give up before the results were even out. Who knew if there would be a what-if? It was still one alchemy chamber for each person. Then, a number of alchemy apprentices walked over, each bearing a box in their hands. Names were written on these boxes. These boxes were all correspondingly distributed among the participants. After Lin Yongchang took his box, he turned his head, and cast a disdainful glance at Ling Han. To dare steal his limelight, how truly ridiculous! He was indeed arrogant. He had clearly attained a lead only through underhanded means, and really thought that he was truly all that impressive. Ling Han only smiled slightly, and ignored him. Even if Lin Yongchang managed to fortunately escape this time, Ling Han would still think of some way to kill this guy in the future. Fuck, what kind of person was he? Begin. The 4-star Grandmaster who was in charge announced. Because a considerable number of 4-star alchemists had appeared, and they could be his equal in status, his tone had become considerably gentler as well. Every person had 12 hours time. Under the time acceleration effects of 100-fold, there was more than enough time even for 3 times of spirit refinement. Ling Han closed the doors, ignoring everything that happened outside, and focused on spirit refinement. Becoming a 5-star alchemist meant that he had accomplished a leap in alchemy, and would definitely be able to perform 5th refinement. However, being able to perform 5th refinement did not mean that he would be able to succeed each and every time. Even a 5-star alchemist would not dare to guarantee that. Thus, every participant had 3 chances. If you did not have enough confidence, you could also perform 3rd refinement, or 4th refinement. There was no rule that specified a 4-star Grandmaster definitely had to perform 5th refinement. However, without a 5th refinement, how would he obtain first place? Ling Han took a deep breath. All the details regarding spirit refinement appeared once more in his mind, together with some suggestions that Grandmaster Zi Qing had given to him. This master had never taught him anything particular step by step, but would take an indirect approach, and guide him to the correct mindset. Thus, Ling Han did not walk the old path that Grandmaster Zi Qing had walked, but had rather developed the ability to think for himself. After about a day, he finally began moving. When he moved, his speed was naturally astonishingly fast. 1st refinement, 2nd refinement, 3rd refinement, and 4th refinement. Ling Han quickly completed 4 rounds of spirit refinement. He had already done these steps a great many times before, so he was proficient and familiar with it, but what came next was the most crucial 5th refinement. Stimulating the 9 heavens flame, he began the final spirit refinement. Boom! Not long after, with a lick of flames, this alchemical pill turned into ashes. Righto, the previous 4 times of spirit refinement were all completely wasted as well. Thankfully, spirit refinement did not require ingredients, or the loss would be much too great. Again. Outside, the spectators were all watching closely, especially on Fan Luoling's side. It was practically a sea of people. Due to pressure, Yuan Tongguang did not dare to brazenly cheat again this time, or rather the powerful figure who was the overseer here could no longer bear to watch. Thus, this time, Fan Luoling's alchemy chamber was completely clean, and could be seen with absolute clarity. The people outside were all staring fixedly. There was no possible way the number of times of spirit refinement she accomplished could be concealed again. If her 4th refinement was going to be described as 5th refinement, then from today onwards, at least this branch of the ancient alchemy tower would completely lose all their trust. Fan Luoling was also famous by now. The attention focused on her was even greater than that on Lin Yongchang and Lin Yongchang. However, the attention focused on top-tier prodigies was also great. There were still a great many people gathered around the alchemy chambers of those like Lin Yongchang, Ling Han, Wu Zixu, and the others. Sigh, it's too bad. A fourth refinement celestial pill, it'd be great if that was given to me. I can at least sell it for 100,000 star stones. A 1-star alchemical pill with fourth refinement, this is really exorbitant. Too bad it exploded. Seeing how Ling Han failed at his first attempt, everyone was feeling rueful, and this kind of rueful feeling was also experienced by others, such as Wu Zixu, Alchemist Riang, and so on. They had all just barely been promoted to 4 stars rank. Even if they had been working their $8 off at Spirit Refinement these few days, just how great would their improvement have been? Failing at the first attempt was inevitable. What was crucial was whether they would be able to succeed once in the remaining 2 attempts. And under the eyes of the public, Lin Yongchang also opened the box and took out an alchemical pill. Nothing happened. His luck was very good. He had not taken that alchemical pill that had been poisoned. He began spirit refinement. First refinement, second refinement, third refinement, and fourth refinement. All 4 instances of spirit refinement went very smoothly. He could already perform fifth refinement. The last 4 times of spirit refinement were naturally done very easily. However, when he began fifth refinement, his speed immediately decreased because he had not stepped into this threshold very long ago, either. He used the regulations of fire as a cauldron, and aroused the Tao of heaven and earth to strengthen the grade of the alchemical pill. A faint golden vein appeared, entwined around the alchemical pill. It appeared out of thin air, gradually darkening further and further. There were 4 golden veins beside it as well. When the color of all 5 was the same shade, it meant that the fifth refinement was completed. Then, Lin Yongchang would definitely become the champion of this alchemy competition. Right when Lin Yongchang was about to succeed, this alchemical pill suddenly exploded. Spirit refinement had failed. Lin Yongchang couldn't help but look irritated. He had been so close to success, and had only been just a step away. Again. He took out another alchemical pill. However, he was still standing steadily, and there were no signs that he had been poisoned. This luck! He began spirit refinement again. Among the crowd, someone mumbled, "This luck is a little good." If one paid more attention to him, he would be able to see that while this person wore a loose cloak, and had a bamboo hat on his head, covering all parts of him firmly, his 2 feet were still exposed. They were clearly a pair of black dog's legs. "I can only move again," this person said while extending a hand, which he reached slightly out of the cloak. It was clearly another dog's paw, and there was actually pink-colored underwear hanging from his paw. Celestial King Ling Miao's underwear, just a single sniff would energize me 100-fold over. This person mumbled to himself, and then tapped his dog's paw in the direction of the alchemy chamber Lin Yongchang was in. Pa! A sound rang out, and the alchemical pill in Lin Yongchang's hands suddenly exploded. Fuck, why had he failed again? Lin Yongchang was completely baffled. This was only a 3rd refinement, and he would still fail at a 3rd refinement? How could this be? How could it be possible? Outside, everyone was also in uproar. Spirit refinement was the easiest to distinguish. However many golden lines there were on the alchemical pill meant how many times spirit refinement it was. There was no second possibility. Thus, everyone could see clearly that Lin Yongchang had actually failed at a mere 3rd refinement. As a great 4-star Grandmaster, he actually failed even at a 3rd refinement? This is a little weak, isn't it? I now seriously wonder how he managed to become a 4-star alchemist? Could it be that he managed it through cheating, like some specific woman, right? Hee hee. A considerable number directly went into mockery mode. Who asked Fan Luoling to be a previous example? Everyone's trust had dropped to rock bottom. Hee hee. That dog person laughed slyly. To actually dare bully our little Han, Grandpa Dog is already very merciful for not $8 at Ping Yu. If Ling Han had heard this, he would have been able to guess his identity immediately. Lin Yongchang was stunned for a moment before stretching his hand towards the final alchemical pill. Chapter 2090 Which Celestial King? Chapter 2090 Which Celestial King? The large hand descended, and picked up the final alchemical pill inside the box. Lin Yongcheng's expression changed immediately. He realized that an extraordinary itch was spreading upwards from the palm of his hand, and he involuntarily released his grip. Pa! The alchemical pill dropped back into the box, but the scene that came after caused him to feel great shock and terror. That was because what fell was not just the alchemical pill, but also a pile of rotten blood and flesh, and when he looked upwards, he could see that actually half of his right hand had disappeared. It was badly mangled, and the remaining half of his palm was still endlessly dripping blood and liquid. His hand was melting. Even if he was an alchemist, he was stunned for a moment, not knowing what he should do. After the time of at least a single heartbeat, he finally released a scream of horror, and by now, the whole of his right hand had completely corroded and turned into mush, and it was still spreading upwards onto his arm. How dare you! With a furious roar, a figure shot out, exuding a frightening aura. Boom! He threw the doors of the alchemy chamber open with a palm strike, and grabbed out at Lin Yongchang. This was an ascending origin tier elite, who was completely capable of suppressing the poison of the red-spotted poison fruit. Even if he could not remove the poison, he could control its spread. But when he reached out his hand, his feet suddenly slipped, and he fell, sprawling out on the ground. This was a very solid fall, and it was his face that hit the ground first, directly sending his two front teeth flying with the impact. Everyone was stunned by this sight. For an ascending origin tier elite to stumble and fall for no reason was an inconceivable matter, what more when he had lost his two front teeth from the fall? Who would believe that this was possible? But since he was a noble ascending origin tier elite, who would be able to plot against him? And to do it in such a secretive way, what cultivation level did the attacker have to be? Celestial King tier? But which Celestial King would do something so pointless? Gaga gaga. The large black dog laughed in an incredibly devious manner. Then, he stretched out his paw again, and that ascending origin tier stumbled to the ground again. Stupid Baldy, who asked you to stay quiet previously, and bully our little Han? Are you having fun now? That ascending origin tier's heart trembled. To attack him in such an unnoticeable manner, it had to be a Celestial King, and for a Celestial King to make a move on him, did he dare to move rashly again? In his eyes, this was a warning from the Celestial King. My lord! He scrambled to his feet, and bowed towards the skies. This is the only son of Grandmaster Lin Chenglong of the ancient Alchemy Tower. Please have mercy, and spare his life. Hearing his words, the audience were all shocked. Was there really a Celestial King that had moved? However, the entire scene was dead silent. No loud, majestic voice rang out while causing the heaven and earth to tremble. The ascending origin tier did not know whether this mysterious Celestial King had agreed or otherwise, but Lin Yongchang's whole arm had already completely corroded by now. If it continued to spread upwards, it would be his neck, his head, and then he was going to die. He did not dare to hesitate further, and hurriedly stretched out his hand towards Lin Yongchang. Pung! His hand had just stretched out, and as if he had not stood steadily, he fell again, his whole face hitting the ground harshly again. His whole face was now forcibly embedded into the hard stone tiles. That Celestial King had moved again! This time, everyone had no further doubts. They were all numb with excitement. To most people, Celestial Kings were placed on a high pedestal, and there was no possible way that they could even catch a glimpse of this kind of existence. What more to see a Celestial King in actual action? Though they still had not seen the true appearance of the Celestial King, they had seen his power. He did not even need to appear, and he could easily play around with an ascending origin tier elite in the palm of his hand, showing the full might of a Celestial King. My lord, please spare me! Lin Yongchang naturally understood as well. No wonder even his previous attempt of third refinement had failed. As it turned out, a Celestial King was secretly intervening. He had a strong resentment in his heart as well. For a great celestial king to actually make a move on a minor character like him, that was too degrading of the celestial king's status. However, he did not dare to make the slightest rebuke, and could only adopt a most humble attitude. Celestial king, that was a king of the celestial realm, high and noble, indestructible and immortal. You little bastard, who do you think you are? To actually dare play dirty tricks on our little Han? If I allowed you to live, what face would Grandpa Dog still have? A voice rang out by Lin Yongcheng's ear, and he was the only one who could hear it. What? Lin Yongcheng's expression was incredibly colorful. He had never imagined that there was actually a celestial king following behind Ling Han, and what was worse, this celestial king was even incredibly protective. He had actually made a direct move on him. For a celestial king to bully a dividing soul tier junior, aren't you embarrassed? Spare me! Spare me! He knelt down to beg for mercy. The corrosion had already reached his neck, severing his head from his body. For a celestial, this was not fatal. It would be fine as long as his mind was not destroyed. But that voice did not sound again. No! Lin Yongchang released a terrible scream. At this moment, he had to be feeling incredible regret. He would not get the slightest benefit out of joining this competition. Even if he won the first place, he would only get a moment to show off. But now, just for the sake of showing off, he had actually lost his life. This price was really too heavy. With this sharp cry, Lin Yongcheng's head was also completely corroded by the poison, and turned into a pool of blood. That ascending origin tier elite scrambled up to his feet unsteadily. There was a clear face-shaped groove left abruptly on the ground. He looked at Lin Yongchang, who had already been turned into blood, and in this moment, his heart was in complete chaos. Something big had happened. An heir of the ancient Alchemy Tower, the son of a 5-star Grandmaster, had died, and he had died in front of his eyes at that, and the elite did not even get the slightest chance to save him at all. Thankfully, it was a celestial king that had moved, so he should be fine, right? How could an ascending origin tier stop a celestial king? No matter how he thought about it, it was impossible. And dead silence had fallen over the area. A 4-star Grandmaster had died just like that. This was even more shocking than Tian Qiyu and the other monarch tiers dying in battle. After all, it was cultivation level that was the deciding factor of cultivators, and dividing soul tier was merely dividing soul tier. But a 4-star Grandmaster, that was an existence that was equal in status to an ascending origin tier elite. For an ascending origin tier elite to die, just how shocking would that be? What more when Lin Yongchang was also the only son of a 5-star Grandmaster? This time, a hole had really been poked in the heavens. And the problem here was, if it was a celestial king that had moved, how could they possibly leave any traces behind? After the incident, not even revenge could be obtained. Could it be that all celestial kings were to be slaughtered completely? Who would have that ability? However, those in the alchemy chambers had absolutely no idea of what had happened outside, and were still focused completely on spirit refinement. 2 hours later, someone was first to walk out. He was instantly shocked. Why was the atmosphere so tense outside? Did anything major happen? Very soon, he was exclaiming in shock. What? A celestial king had arrived, made a move on Lin Yongchang, and then killed him with poison? This? However he thought about it, that was unbelievable. For a celestial king to kill a dividing soul tier, did he have to use poison? Whom were you trying to fool? Gradually, others could tell this fact. Initially, they were all astonished, and subsequently, there was no way they would believe it had been the act of a celestial king. This was unbelievable. In such tremendous shock, even if Wu Zixu, Ling Han, and the others stepped out of their alchemy chambers respectively, not many people would take notice. However, the competition still had not ended, so it naturally had to continue. When everyone had come out of their alchemy chambers, the assessment for the times and quality of spirit refinement began. Only Ling Han and Wu Zixu had attained 5th refinement. Alchemists Riang and Xie Yuzhang had failed in 2 attempts of 5th refinement, and their 3rd attempt was only 4th refinement. They did not dare continue to avoid not getting a single point in the third round. In that case, their rank would definitely fall several dozen tiers. Fan Luoling had also attained 4th refinement. In full public, there was no way she could cheat again. However, the results of 4th refinement could not be considered too poor. Thus, the first place naturally had to be determined between Ling Han and Wu Zixu. Chapter 2091 Charge. Chapter 2091 Charge. When Ling Han found out about Lin Yongcheng's death, he was not surprised, because this had been his doing in the first place. However, when he heard that there was a celestial king that had intervened, his expression became strange. Celestial king? Where did this celestial king come from? Was it Lu Hairong? He was a little suspicious, but if it had not been for the intervention of a celestial king, how could an ascending origin tier elite possibly have fallen by himself twice, and even broken his teeth and disfigured himself at that? Strange. At the moment, he was not in the mood to ponder this problem, but was more concerned about the final results. Very soon, the results of the third round, and the final overall results were out. First place of the third round, Ling Han, 100 points. Second place, Wu Zixu, 98 points. Then, it was the overall results. First place was Ling Han, 292 points, and second place was Wu Zixu, 289 points. Ling Han came in first. Everyone was more accepting of this result because Ling Han had managed to enter into the ranks of top 10 in history during the herb recognizing competition. He actually should also have been second in the second competition, and was first in the third. He was really and truly deserving of becoming the champion. Because of Lin Yongcheng's death, the prize presentation ceremony was also rushed. It was over and done with by simply stuffing a map into Ling Han's hands. As for second place, there was no prize. In the first place, this competition was meant for earning prestige, allowing one to have a chance of entering into the ancient Alchemy Tower. Thus, even the prize for the first place was more of a formality. The celestial medicine was inside that mystery realm, but was it definite that you would be able to gain it? Dismissed. The prize presentation had already ended, so it was natural that everyone would go back home. Ling Han, Xiao Gu, the Empress, and the others walked together. But they were not heading back to the inn. Instead, they planned to leave 100 Dragons City altogether. Their next destination was the Yin Soul Valley. They had all reached peak stage Young Soul, and if they did not break through, they would not be able to advance any further. There were a considerable number of Yin Soul valleys in the western celestial realm, and unlike the Yang Soul Ocean, there was no such thing as opening or closing of the Yin Soul Valley. They could be entered at any time. Thus, there was no need for Ling Han and his party to deliberately seek it out. They only had to go to the Yin Soul Valley nearest to them. Boom! A terrifying aura surged out, and an elite arrived from the air. There was a black peacock spreading its wings behind him. Each of its 18 feathers was as sharp as a sword, as if they themselves were celestial tools. "I am Yuanxin and come from the Dara sect," this elite said, his voice ringing out like thunder. His eyes swept over the surroundings. "The holy son of our sect, Tian Qinyu, has died here, and Lord Sect Master has commanded that I investigate the reason, so I request cooperation from the side of the ancient Alchemy Tower." This was an ascending origin tier elite. "I am Fei Chang. Brother Yu, please come down for a meeting," the ascending origin tier on the ancient Alchemy Tower's side said. However, he lacked a pair of front teeth, and with his face covered with blood, his image was really quite bad. Yuanxin looked at this ascending origin tier elite, his expression becoming strange. "What had you been doing just now? Could it be that you were fighting with your wife? Why do you look so terrible?" He was curious, but it would not be appropriate for him to ask. The curiosity in his heart was like a persistent itch, though. With a light cough, he said, "Brother Fei, I hope you can provide cooperation." Fei Chang looked troubled, and after some thought, he finally said, "Brother Yu, to be honest with you, this matter possibly involves a celestial king." "What is it?" Yuanxin was confused. Fei Chang gave an account of the previous happenings, and then said, As I deduce it, this celestial king must have relations with one of the contestants. Otherwise, how could a great celestial king possibly lower themselves to make a move on a dividing soul tear? Brother Fei, you are worrying too much. Yu Wenxin waved a hand dismissively. The people I seek are prodigies of cultivation, freakish geniuses that were capable of killing a holy son of our sect. How could it possibly be related to alchemists? That's right. Fei Chan nodded slowly. There did not exist this kind of prodigy in this world. Brother Yu seems to already know who the criminal is? He asked. Yu Wenxin nodded. There are a total of 2 criminals, one by the name of Ji Wuming, and the other is named Ling Han. Pooh! Fei Chang immediately spluttered. Previously he had just said that there was no such prodigy, but in the blink of an eye, reality had hit him harshly. There really was! Brother Fei, could it be that you know of these 2 people? Yu Wenxin asked. I don't know of Ji Wuming, but I do know Ling Han. Fei Chan nodded. Humph, to actually dare to kill the holy son of our sect, I truly wish to see what he looks like. It is said that this person is 21 meters tall, and has a huge D******. Yu Wenxin said. They were not conversing in low voices, and Ling Han heard them clearly. Involuntarily his expression darkened. Fuck, just who was it that said that he had a large D******? Ha ha. On the other side, the large black dog was rolling around in raucous laughter. This naturally was his doing. He definitely does not have a height of 21 meters, and as for the size of his D******, that I would not know. Fei Chang pointed in Ling Han's direction. There, the person is there. Yu Wenxin's gaze instantly pierced over. A frightening pressure assaulted, and even with Ling Han's physique, he felt like he was about to explode. The ascending origin tier was really too powerful. Xiao Gu moved, and stepped out in front of Ling Han, immediately cancelling out that pressure. En? Yu Wenxin appeared slightly surprised. He stared at Xiao Gu for a while. Who might you be, sir? This person actually looked exactly like Ling Han. If it were not for the fact that he had taken the initiative to move, others would definitely misunderstand, and think that he was Ling Han's divided soul. And who might you be, sir? Xiao Gu was exhilarated. What he most enjoyed was having someone new play the game of imitation with him. Who am I? A hint of displeasure appeared on Yu Wenxin's face. He had already announced his name and origins just now, and the other was still asking? Was he deliberately pretending to be deaf? Suppressing his anger, he declared, I am Yu Wenxin, and come from the Ra sect. I am Yu Wenxin, and come from the Ra sect? Xiao Gu said in a deadpan tone. Sir, what do you mean by this? Yu Wenxin's voice raised a notch, showing a furious expression. By now, Xiao Gu's imitation was not just limited to words, but even tone and expression were an exact copy. He also showed an expression of fury, and loudly demanded, Sir, what do you? Yu Wenxin was almost exploding with fury. You impersonate me right in front of my face. Do you think this is very funny? You've gone too far, he declared darkly. You've gone too far. Xiao Gu also responded darkly. Yu Wenxin could no longer tolerate it. He moved aggressively, and sent out a palm strike through the air at Xiao Gu. Immediately, a sharp black arrow shot out, covered with seals of great Tao. This was a blow that could destroy the heaven and earth. Xiao Gu's expression was one completely at a loss, and he did not dodge either, simply allowing this arrow to attack him. Pooh! The black arrow penetrated into his body. Xiao Gu looked at Yu Wenxin with an astonished expression, his face filled with confusion. Just now, weren't we still having fun playing? Why did you hit me suddenly? Moreover, why did you hit my chest? It would not cause the slightest bit of injury. Yu Wenxin was also incredibly shocked. He had never seen any ascending origin tier dare to take an attack from him head-on like this. He gave the matter some thought, and then realization suddenly dawned on him. You have used a secret technique, and shrunk your body. This appearance is merely an empty shell. No wonder he would look exactly like Ling Han. No wonder he could sustain a blow from him head-on. This was not an actual body at all. You have used a secret technique. Xiao Gu copied again. Yu Wenqin was infuriated. You actually insist on doing this even at this point in time? Just how contemptuous are you of me? With a battle cry, he charged toward Xiao Gu, and with a shake of his right hand, a black sword appeared. Seals of great Tao flickered, its sharpness on full display. Xiao Gu greeted the incoming attack with his fists raised. Pun, 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 he confronted Yu Wenqin head-on. In truth, he was just a bone, and did not have any flesh and blood body. His fists were manifested through the regulations of heaven and earth, so he naturally was unafraid of clashing head-on with a sharp weapon. Chapter 2092 Lu Hairong arrives. Chapter 2092 Lu Hairong arrives. Two great ascending origin tier elites were exchanging blows, and there were not many people that could watch the battle from the sidelines. They all had to retreat. Xiao Gu would only passively defend himself. Other when encountering the cultivators of the other cultivation system, he wouldn't feel any killing intent towards anyone. However, his battle prowess was really not weak. No matter how Yu Wenqin attacked, it was useless. He stood like a high mountain that would not collapse. And right when this intense battle was ongoing, another two frightening auras appeared. In the skies, a man and woman appeared. Though they had appeared together, they clearly were not a group. There was enough distance between the two of them, ensuring that if the other suddenly became violent, there would be enough time to react. Golden Crow's Sect, Hairong. Cloudy Waves Valley, AIU. This man and woman introduced themselves respectively, both of them extremely arrogant in tone and expression. They were both at the ascending origin tier. Even in the Western Celestial Realm, ascending origin tiers could still be considered top-tier elites. Only celestial kings were superior to them, but how many celestial kings could there be? Brother Shi, Fairy AI. Fei Chang clasped his hands in greeting. Hearing the origins of these two people, he knew that they had come for Yu Huaqing and Zhu Huiyan, respectively. The holy daughter of our sect has been killed, and I have been commanded to come and apprehend the criminal, Aiyu said, her divine sense spreading out, and enshrouding the entire 100-dragon city. One is Ji Wuming, who wields a small bow, and one is Ling Han, 21 meters tall, and has a huge D******. Was there no end to it? Ling Han's lip twitched. In the future, when anyone spoke of him, would they have to add on the description of having a huge D***** first? Hairong did not speak. He had met Aiyu on his way here, and they shared the same motive, which was to apprehend Ji Wuming and Ling Han. Since Aiyu had already spoken, he chose to keep silent. In any case, those below them were only minor characters at the dividing soul tier and severing mundane tier. He couldn't even bother himself to take a good look at them. Fei Chang pointed at Ling Han. That's him. This brat was really outrageously brazen. Having killed Tian Qingyu and the others, he did not quickly flee, but still came to participate in the alchemy competition, and what was crazier, this brat actually came in first place. Aiyu looked sinisterly at Ling Han, and demanded, "Where is Ji Wuming? I am not his babysitter, so how should I know where he is?" Ling Han spread out his hands. The other party had approached in aggression, filled with animosity. Even if he made his attitude humble, it would be useless. Then why did he still have to suffer in silence? Moreover, they were each responsible for their own survival after entering into a mystery realm in the first place. Otherwise, why would they even enter? As expected of an evil creature that is undisciplined and out of control, to actually dare to speak with me in this manner. Aiyu's expression turned cold, showing her killing intent. "Don't waste so many words, and let's just capture him," Hairong said impatiently. Aiyu glanced at him in displeasure, but did not pick a fight. She knew herself well. The other was ascending origin tier at consummate level, while she herself was only at great accomplishment level. This gap of a minor level meant an incredibly large disparity in battle prowess. She, too, could not bother to waste too many words on a minor character. Immediately, she stretched out her hand, and grabbed out at Ling Han. "Pa!" Her hand had not reached its target when a hand appeared out of thin air. It was as huge as a mountain, and delivered a harsh slap in her direction. This large hand was unstoppable, and slapped the attack from Aiu back in her direction. A frightening aura surged out, and a woman walked over from the distance through the air. She was clearly moving in an unhurried manner, but she had crossed mountains and seas with a single step. Regulations of space! Everyone gasped, but next they couldn't help but grab their heads, revealing an incredibly stunned expression. Celestial King! To be able to easily send an ascending origin tier flying with a single strike, aside from a Celestial King, there could be no other existence. Moreover, a Celestial King's appearance was unique. There was a four-colored halo of light flickering around this woman like four heavenly Tao, showing that she was a fourth heaven Celestial King. Ugly hag, you're here! Hunyo humphed. You really are slow, and made Neo wait so long. The new arrival was Lu Hairong. She had heard of how Ling Han and Ji Wuming had killed Tian Qingyu and the others, and had thus rushed here at the first instant. She had not used too much time on the journey, but when the news reached her ears, it had already been a day ago. Greetings, senior. Ling Han clasped his fists and bowed in greeting. Lu Hairong couldn't help but shake her head. Ling Han really was a troublemaker, to actually offend several great sects in a single move. Though these great sects were only 8th Heaven Celestial King tier, and not one of them could compare to Rock Palace, the present Rock Palace was embroiled in a storm, so no matter what, she was not willing to have an addition of several such strong enemies. Greetings, milady! Immediately, everyone bowed down. Milady! Shiheng withdrew his arrogant attitude, and bowed towards Lu Hairong. This boy killed the holy son of our sect. May I know what relations he has with milady? What he meant was that if there were no strong or close relations, she had best not interfere. Why did Shiheng dare to present such an attitude? That was because Lu Hairong was only a 4th Heaven Celestial King, yet the Golden Crow's sect was an 8th Heaven Celestial King tier force. There were a total of 7 Celestial Kings in the sect, and 3 of them were above 4th Heaven, so there was naturally no need for him to be overly afraid. Lu Hairong naturally wanted nothing more than to cast a troublemaker like Ling Han away, but firstly, Hunyo clung very closely to him, and secondly, this person was the heir of that person, having a considerably strong relationship with the Rock Palace, so how could she possibly overlook this? She calmly stated, Do you have any right to demand what relation I have with him? Since I have already acted, retreat immediately. Originally, there was no need for a Celestial King to be so tolerant, but who asked the Rock Palace to already have a powerful enemy? It was truly not convenient for the Rock Palace to have more powerful enemies. Shiheng's eyes involuntarily lit up. Lu Hairong had not directly sent him flying with a smack, but rather kept her patience to speak with him, which clearly meant that the latter had to feel strong wariness towards the Golden Crow sect. Otherwise, what need would there be for a great Celestial King to be tolerant? He bowed again. Milady, the holy son of our sect had astonishingly high natural talent in cultivation, and initially should have had boundless future prospects. He was very much favored by our Lord Sect Master, and now he was killed by the combined forces of others. He will not be able to rest in peace, and our Lord Sect Master is also unable to allow such injustice. Injustice? It had clearly been Tian Qingyu and the others that had joined forces in an attempt to kill Ling Han and Ji Wuming. That was not right. It was they that had united every person that had entered into the Divine Dragon Mountain to isolate and besiege Ling Han and Ji Wuming. But they had not predicted the existence of the black figures, causing them to become victims of their own genius. They were counter-killed to the point that their party was practically wiped out completely. How could this be called injustice? It was only because Ling Han and Ji Wuming were really strong enough, which had caused them to shoot themselves in the foot. Lu Hairong did not know what was going on, but firstly, there was no possibility that she would step back, and secondly, it was impossible that she would accept being threatened by an ascending origin tier. Immediately, her pretty face grew cold, and she menacingly asked, Why do you blurt so much nonsense? Please reconsider, milady. Hairong bowed down to the lowest he could go, making his attitude extremely humble such that it would not be appropriate for Lu Hairong to show her ire. Our Cloudy Waves Valley is of the same stand as well. Aiyu had already flown back, her hair slightly disheveled. A trace of blood was seen on the corner of her lips, but she did not sustain any strong injuries. This was not because she was powerful, but rather that Lu Hairong had been merciful. Lu Hairong's killing intent flickered slightly. These two ascending origin tears actually dared to threaten her. Did they really think she did not dare kill anyone? Though the Rock Palace was presently embroiled in extreme peril, it still had a ninth heaven celestial king as overseer. Even if she was severely injured, killing eighth heaven celestial kings was still doable. Hee, my friend, you had best think before you act. With a loud laughter, a man suddenly appeared, multicolored halos of light surrounding him shockingly. It was another celestial king. Chapter 2093 Arrival of Various Celestial Kings. Chapter 2093 Arrival of Various Celestial Kings. 4 colored halos of light shone, as if there were 4 extremely powerful streaks of heavenly Tao protecting him. It was another celestial king, and also a 4th heaven celestial king at that. Lu Hairong looked solemn. Even if she originated from a 9th heaven celestial king tier force, she did not dare to underestimate the other in the slightest, because what person that had advanced into the ranks of celestial kings was not an extraordinarily talented genius? Especially for a 4th heaven celestial king, who had undergone innumerable trials. His battle prowess was definitely like a heavenly sword that could kill anything. How should I address you? Lu Hairong turned her eyes on this celestial king. This celestial king showed a faint smile. The Ra sect, Full Wind's celestial king. Lu Hairong nodded. Rock Palace, Lu Hairong. So you are the renowned Sea Heavenly King? Full Wind's celestial king chuckled, and clasped his hands in greeting. I have long since heard of the great name of the Sea Heavenly King, and meet you today finally. Nice to meet you. You are too polite. Lu Hairong also smiled. The other party was a celestial king, and could not be underestimated. The Rock Palace only accepts female disciples. This boy should not have any relation to your esteemed sect. The Full Wind's celestial king changed the topic suddenly, and the conversation turned back onto Ling Han. Thus, I would like the Sea Heavenly King to please give me some face, and hand this boy over to me. Lu Hairong shook her head. That would be difficult to comply with. Sea Heavenly King, you are making it difficult for me. Full Wind's celestial king sighed, a troubled expression on his face. Hee. Lu Hairong chuckled. She was indeed wary of the other party's strength, and indeed did not want to make any more powerful enemies for the Rock Palace. But if it really came down to a battle, she would not cower back in the slightest either. Then, the only option is deciding through force, Full Wind's celestial king said. Come then, Lu Hairong declared proudly. She definitely did not dare to underestimate the other party, but was also filled with confidence in her own abilities. One came from an 8th heaven celestial king tier force, while the other was from a 9th heaven celestial king tier force. Even though there was only a difference of 1 heaven, it had already been mentioned that there were 9 heavens in celestial king tier, and every step forwards was as difficult as climbing the heavens. Who could afford this difference? For a great 9th heaven celestial king tier sect, they taught astonishingly many cultivation techniques. This was an existence that stood at the apex of the celestial realm, and had accumulated unknown treasures in their possession. Thus, in a battle of equal levels, she had enough confidence that she could win. Hee, allow me to join in. With a light laugh, a man strode forwards through the air. He was clearly not very tall or broad, but it seemed like even the heavens would prostrate beneath his feet. Propitious red clouds spread around him for thousands of meters, and a 4-colored light surrounded him. It was another 4th heaven celestial king. Seeing Lu Hairong look towards him, this celestial king showed a cordial smile. Cloudy Waves Valley, Celestial King Yuan Fang. On, a beastly roar rang out, and hot clouds of volcanic ash appeared on the horizon. Then, these clouds of volcanic ash flew over at an astonishing speed. Then, the clouds dispersed, revealing a man of tall, broad build. His upper body was bare, and there was an indescribably malevolent wolf-shaped tattoo on his chest. This was not a tattoo, but something he was born with. There was a vague light of great Tao flowing through it, exuding an intimidating pressure. Golden Crow's sect, Green Wolf, this large man declared, his voice as loud as booming thunder. Beneath them, a great many people were instantly knocked unconscious from just his voice. The might of a celestial king would shake the heavens and earth, and a single thought would shake down even the stars in the skies. Lu Hairong's eyes involuntarily narrowed slightly, and she finally looked wary. Celestial King tier was too hard to attain, but what person who had become a celestial king was not an extremely talented prodigy, a prodigy among prodigies? In a battle of 1 against 1, she had absolute confidence that she could win, and in a battle of 1 versus 2, she was also confident that she would not lose, but in a battle of 1 against 3, the result would not be too certain. More importantly, Hunyo was still here, and she was the future Imperial Empress of the Rock Palace, bearing the future of every single person in the Rock Palace on her shoulders. She definitely could not come to the slightest bit of harm. Thus, she was filled with qualms, and did not dare go all out in battle. More importantly, if Hunyo was captured, the Four Seas Palace would definitely be willing to offer an astonishingly exorbitant price in exchange for her, and possibly even an 8th Heaven Celestial King would be unable to refuse this kind of offer. For example, celestial medicine that was epochs in age, or a source power of heaven and earth as long as they had not reached 9th heaven yet. The source powers of heaven and earth was still a good reference material for even celestial kings. "We only want this brat," Celestial King Yuafang said, pointing at Ling Han. "If the Sea Heavenly King does not allow it, we can only come to blows. However, the safety of these few girls could not be guaranteed by then." The 3 celestial kings each made their attempts of persuasion. There was completely no need to waste too many words when one had reached their level. They would be able to transmit their opinions with a single look, and move simultaneously. It was absolutely impossible for a man to be a disciple of the Rock Palace, but it was possible that the women were ones. Though they did not know which one it was, or if it was all of them, it would do to just use all of them as a threat. Immediately, Lu Hairong's expression changed. This was her weak point. In a great battle between celestial kings, even if she had drawn Hunyo into her spatial god tool, it would not be safe. It was highly possible that the spatial god tool would crumble in battle, and the shock wave from a celestial king tier level attack would easily kill her. 3 4th Heaven celestial kings were completely qualified to threaten her. At this time, everyone else had become the background, and the meaning of their existence was that of mere spectators. Even Fei Chang, the host, did not dare speak a single word. In front of celestial kings, however strong an ascending origin tier was, they were still trash. "See Heavenly King, how about it?" Green Wolf Celestial King asked loudly, each word turning into a seal of heavenly Tao. He was so strong that his words had taken solid form, capable of suppressing the world. Lu Hairong showed a conflicted expression. For the pride of the Rock Palace, she initially should have responded in an incredibly assertive manner, and battled fiercely, leaving boldly after severely wounding 1 or 2 celestial kings, but now she was considering the idea of compromising. However important Ling Han was, his value could not possibly surpass Hunyo's. "Ugly hag, beat them up, beat these guys up!" Though Hunyo was usually not very reliable, her insight was extremely skilled. Immediately, she could see the conflict that Lu Hairong was in, and rebelled at the first moment. "Fuck, how can Yo's Ling Han be allowed to come to danger? See Heavenly King, please reconsider!" The Full Wind's Celestial King's eyes were set on Hunyo, his gaze flickering. Though there was quite a distance between them, the Full Wind's Celestial King had still heard about some matters of the Rock Palace. After all, it was a 9th Heaven Celestial King to force. Even in the Western Celestial Realm, there were only about a dozen or so such forces. In the past, the Rock Palace had flourished greatly, with 2 9th Heaven Celestial Kings standing guard, and had the domineering air of the strongest force in the Celestial Realm, but as the last Imperial Empress died in an ambush, the Rock Palace began slowly declining from their extreme prosperity. Presently it was besieged by the Four Seas Palace, and was struggling on the borders of survival. To garner such wariness from Lu Hairong, and to actually be able to call a fourth heaven celestial king an ugly hag, Hu Niu's identity was abundantly clear. The next Imperial Empress of the Rock Palace. If Hu Niu was captured, and handed over to the Four Seas Palace, how would he be rewarded? That was a ninth heaven celestial king tier force that had existed for who knew how many epochs, and had to have astonishingly great wealth. The moment this thought arose in him, his heart immediately became excited, and could not be suppressed. To kill Lu Hairong, he naturally did not have the slightest bit of confidence. But if it was merely grabbing two dividing soul tier juniors, he was filled with confidence. What he had thought of, how could the Green Wolf Celestial King and Celestial King Yuanfang not think of? Their eyes also landed on Hu Niu, revealing a heated gaze. Lu Hairong saw this happen, and immediately decided. She declared, "Fine, this boy can be handed over to you." She definitely could not allow anything to happen to Hu Niu. "Ugly hag, what nonsense are you saying?" Hu Niu howled in fury. Full Wind's Celestial King and the others exchanged looks, and nodded respectively. For the moment, it was best not to provoke Lu Hairong. After all, she was also a fourth heaven celestial king, and if she really put her life on the line, it was highly possible that she could drag one or two of them down with her. They would capture Linghan first, and then they would inform the fifth heaven celestial kings, sixth heaven celestial kings, or even stronger existences in their sections. By then, they would naturally be able to apprehend both Lu Hairong and Hu Niu. Chapter 2094 Xiao Gu shows his might. Chapter 2094 Xiao Gu shows his might. "This little girl is really too undependable," the large black dog mumbled from afar. "So stupid and so indecisive. Just how exactly did she become a celestial king? As expected, all these years she's spent alive have been the years of a dog. Pay. Which bastard invented this line? He really deserves to die." Suddenly, he took a sniff, and then a strange expression appeared on his face. "The fierce woman, Ling Miao, has caught up, hee, just in time. You can help Grandpa Dog to deal with these little brats." If someone had heard him call the four celestial kings as little girl and little brats, respectively, they would either die of terror or laugh themselves to death. Had this large black dog gone mad, or was his strength powerful to a heaven-defying extent? The large black dog stretched out a paw, sweeping it through the air. A circular halo of light appeared, and its inner surface was covered entirely with decorative designs, looking like patterns, but also seeming like a character that was incredibly complex at the same time. What was strange was that the large black dog's paw extended into the circle, and the part that had passed through it actually disappeared into thin air. This was regulations of space. "I really can't bear to part with it. I just managed to steal it with extreme difficulty." The large black dog drew out a pair of underpants, showing an expression of regret. "However, if I don't return it to that fierce woman, she will probably chase Grandpa Dog relentlessly for eternity. Sigh, just a single sniff energizes me." The large black dog sniffed the underpants, looking incredibly perverted. His whole expression was one of infatuation, yet ultimately, he still stretched out his paw, and tossed the underpants into the circle, which immediately disappeared without a trace. There will be a good show to come. The large black dog's regret was swept away, and he immediately became exhilarated. In the skies, the full wind's celestial king moved, and grabbed out at Linghan. Since Lu Hairong had already spoken, the word of a celestial king was naturally as strong as the heavens. There was absolutely no possibility that she would go back on her word. Linghan couldn't even move at all. In fact, being locked down by the divine sense of the celestial kings, he could not even complete a single thought. It was as if regulations of time had been executed on him, and everything had become overwhelmingly slow. Xiao, a celestial light streak passed, and Xiao Gu suddenly retreated, stepping in front of Linghan. The celestial king bone in his body glowed, as a powerful celestial king tier aura seeped out. What? Yu Wenxin's eyes almost fell out in his shock. The aura of a celestial king, how could this be possible? Could it be that he was battling with a celestial king? Did any such celestial king exist in this world? Not fighting back, and just allowing him to attack. He was so good-tempered that it was practically inhuman. But the celestial king tier aura told no lies. To speak of nothing else, if he was facing this aura directly now, his knees would definitely become weak, and he would not even have the ability to move. Boom! This strike from the full wind's celestial king was suddenly stopped, but Xiao Gu's body also crumbled loudly. This was not his original body, and thus had limited defenses. In front of a celestial king, it could not withstand a single blow. A snow-white bone floated in the skies. It was covered with ancient seals, exuding an air of age, and a powerful celestial king tier aura was also spreading out, as if a supreme existence had descended. The full wind celestial king Yuan Fang, Green Wolf celestial king, and Lu Hairong included, the four great celestial kings all showed expressions of shock as none of them had discovered previously that Xiao Gu was not an actual person at all, but just a mere bone. He was only a bone, yet actually could bear the strike of a celestial king, and a fourth heaven celestial king at that. This was too inconceivable. Celestial tool? The four great celestial kings all stared at Xiao Gu. No, this should be the bone left behind by a celestial king, and has reached a supreme height in terms of body art. That is why it can match the toughness of divine metal. Otherwise, being corroded by the power of time, even the body of a celestial king would gradually lose its vitality. It could not possibly block the attack of another celestial king. This celestial king should have reached an astonishing height when he had been alive. Seventh heaven? Probably not just that, it has to be eighth heaven or above. The four great celestial kings were incredibly shocked. When a person died, everything would be gone. This was an absolute fact that would never change. Even a celestial king could not possibly be exempted from this rule. But now, this celestial king bone clearly had developed its own consciousness. This had overturned the unshakable law. Celestial tool? No, this should be. Xiao Gu spoke up, repeating the words that the four celestial kings had spoken previously without the slightest error. The four great celestial kings. Everyone beneath them. A white bone, and it was there speaking in a lively and realistic manner. Furthermore, they were words that others had spoken previously. Just what kind of bizarre scene was this? Ling Han was speechless. This guy had already become a bone now, yet he was still in the mood to imitate words. As Xiao Gu copied the words, he was also reforming his body. As blood and flesh interwove, his body reappeared. It was still formed exactly like Ling Han. It looked like he was definitely screwing Ling Han over. This aura? In the distance, the large black dog scratched his ears and cheek. There is no way Grandpa Dog would forget after a single sniff, but Grandpa Dog does not have the slightest memory. And looking at the marks of age on this celestial bone, it should have existed for a few epochs, at least. Furthermore, there is a sliver of a dark aura on the bone, not from those evil creatures, but left behind after fighting and killing those creatures. Only when one had killed too many of those dark creatures could such a strong aura be left behind. Could it be that it is in existence even older than Grandpa Dog? That's right. The storm of darkness had not existed just in Grandpa Dog's generation, but can be traced back to an even farther ancient era. Perhaps this guy had died after battling with the dark creatures. When Xiao Gu had finished repeating the words, his body had also been completely reformed. Then, he looked at the four great celestial kings in an endearingly silly way. Friend, since you have already died, what obsession cannot be let go? Celestial King Yuanfang said. He was sure that this celestial king bone could go against nature because the obsessions he had when he had been alive were too strong. Friend, since you have already died, Xiao Gu copied, diligently and unfailingly. Instantly, Celestial King Yuanfang's face became dark and ugly. He was still alive and well, so why was it he that had died? Even the Full Wind Celestial King and Green Wolf Celestial King did not dare speak at this, because Xiao Gu did not take himself as a Celestial King at all. He would directly repeat whatever had been said, and this damage was indeed quite strong. However powerful he had been in the past, he is only a bone now, and no longer possesses his past glories, the Green Wolf Celestial King said to the other two great Celestial Kings. We'll join forces. And how could it be that we are still unable to suppress a celestial tool with that? A celestial king's bone, it would be more appropriate to call it a celestial tool. All right, we'll work together to suppress it. The Full Wind Celestial King and Celestial King Yuanfang both nodded. However, right at this moment, a dragon's roar rang out from afar. Boom! Innumerable images of divine dragons streaked across the skies. The many dragons danced together, their might overflowing the heavens. Pa 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 pa. All four great celestial kings actually fell down from the skies simultaneously. What? Everyone was watching with bulging eyes. What was going on here? It was only a dragon's roar, and four great celestial kings actually couldn't even manage to stand steadily anymore. Who was the newcomer? This thought had not been completed when another person had appeared above the plaza. A beauty. A supremely exquisite beauty. She was dressed in green robes, her complexion as fair as jade. She had a slender nose and almond-shaped eyes, her hair as black as ink, cascading like a waterfall. Furthermore, there was actually a pair of dragon's horns sprouting out of her temples, their hue the dark blue color of green jade. And it was this exquisite beauty that was exuding a powerful, mighty aura capable of suppressing heavens and earth. She did indeed possess such strength because there were 8 streaks of light entwined behind her. 8th Heaven Celestial King! Heavens, an 8th Heaven Celestial King, this was an existence that was practically standing at the apex of the celestial realm, a truly supreme existence. Chapter 2095 8th Heaven Celestial King. Chapter 2095 8th Heaven Celestial King. Milady! Milady! Including Lu Hairong and the Full Wind Celestial King, everyone knelt, paying their humblest respect to this 8th Heaven Celestial King. An 8th Heaven Celestial King could kill a 4th Heaven Celestial King several times over with a single thought. The fierce woman is here now. There's a good show ahead. Meanwhile, the large black dog mumbled to himself, his figure suddenly becoming translucent. He was clearly still standing there, yet it was as if he had disappeared from the skies. His grasp of the regulations of space had reached an astonishing height. That 8th Heaven Celestial King in the skies was naturally Celestial King Ling Miao. Her face was filled with fury, looking like it was strong enough to burn the heavens and boil the earth. In her pursuit, she had confirmed that despicable large black dog was just within the vicinity. Yet, the grasp over the regulations of space that this large black dog had already reached a chilling extent. Even she was unable to capture any trace of him. She ignored Lu Hairong and the others completely. Though they were all celestial kings, a 4th Heaven Celestial King was actually no different than an ant in her eyes. Anyone who had not reached the height that she had would completely be unable to imagine just how strong she was. And her eyes swept over them, stopping on the Full Wind's Celestial King. Me milady! The Full Wind's Celestial King involuntarily shivered. At this moment, he felt as if the sect master of the Dara sect was staring at him. That heavy, intimidating pressure made him feel like he was only a minor character that had not even begun cultivating. Where is that damn dog? Ling Miao's Celestial King spoke. What damn dog? The Full Wind's Celestial King was baffled. This lady had come in such an aggressive manner, but the words she spoke were completely baffling. What madness was she in now? However, Ling Han's heart jolted. There seemed to be only one damn dog that could enrage a Celestial King to the point of stomping in rage. The large black dog. At the time, he said that it was possible he would be targeted by several supreme existences, and thus left Ling Han while going off to steal the underpants of a female Celestial King on his way. Linking that with the present situation and thinking further, the truth was practically on the verge of being disclosed. This female celestial king was the poor victim whose underpants had been stolen by the large black dog. A great and noble celestial king, and one that was an eighth heaven celestial king at that, actually had her underpants stolen? Ling Han couldn't help but be impressed with the large black dog. Just how strong had this guy gotten by now to actually be able to even bring disaster onto an eighth heaven celestial king? Not talking? Ling Miao's celestial king was clearly a hot-tempered person. She directly stretched out a hand, and green dragon claws appeared in thin air, gripping tightly around the full wind's celestial king. Seals of great Tao surged, and supreme might abounded. "Milady, I really don't know what you are speaking of." The full wind's celestial king was almost about to cry. He was a fourth heaven celestial king, for better or worse. Anyone who saw him would have to be extremely respectful, and address him, "My lord." But now to be picked up in front of so many people, completely incapable of fighting back, this was an extraordinary humiliation. Yet he did not dare to have the slightest complaint. Otherwise, if an eighth heaven celestial king wanted to kill him, it would completely be the matter of a single thought. Afterwards, even if the Dara celestial king went to seek her out, it would still be a question of whether he would be able to match her. He had no wish to die in such a dubious way. Celestial King Ling Miao humped, while her other hand tapped out at empty air. The clothes that the full wind's celestial king was wearing immediately exploded, and fluttered and danced in the skies like butterflies. However, a pink-colored pair of underpants was completely unscathed, and floated down slowly. Everyone saw this scene clearly. A great and noble celestial king, and he had actually hidden the underpants of a woman on him. This taste was really unique. TSK, TSK, TSK. Could it be that the full wind's celestial king had an unusual fetish? Celestial King Ling Miao's fury blazed even hotter. With a sudden wave of her hand, this pair of pink underpants burned fiercely, but it did not look like it was going to burn up completely, at least for now. Everyone was astonished. That was an eighth heaven celestial king, and even this kind of existence could not instantly burn this pair of underpants to ash. Just how shocking was the defense of these underpants? They definitely did not belong to the full wind's celestial king. Hold on, why was celestial king Ling Miao only targeting the full wind's celestial king? There were a total of 4 celestial kings here, but Ling Miao's celestial king had only chosen the full wind's celestial king to make a move on out of all of them? Could it be that the full wind's celestial king had stolen celestial king Ling Miao's underpants? It could only be said that the full wind's celestial king's hobbies were too unique, and that he was outrageously bold to actually dare to stretch out his hand towards an eighth heaven celestial king, and he had even succeeded at that. Impressive. For a moment, everyone directed gazes of admiration at the full wind's celestial king. Even the green wolf celestial king and celestial king Yuan Fang were no exception. Yet the full wind's celestial king was completely dumbfounded. Why did he have a pair of female underpants on him? Furthermore, it was clear that this pair of underpants had brought great trouble to him. Seeing how Lady Celestial King's killing intent was surging, he hurriedly proclaimed, "Milady, this pair of underpants is not mine." No, it was not me who has stolen yours." No, I don't know how it came to be in my possession either." He was telling the complete truth, but who would believe him? "Oh, you were a fourth heaven celestial king here. If you were not the one who stole it, how could it be that there would be another that could frame you? The only person who could accomplish that here would only be Celestial King Ling Miao. But would she do that? You had to be joking." "It really wasn't me." The full wind's Celestial King wanted to cry by now. This had absolutely nothing to do with him, yet now he could not explain it clearly, no matter how hard he tried. Indeed, even he himself was about to believe that he had done it. Otherwise, where would this pair of underpants have come from? Celestial King Ling Miao raised a hand, and delivered a slap. Immediately, a bright red handprint appeared on Full Wind's Celestial King's face. "That damn dog, where exactly is he?" She naturally knew that the full wind celestial king had not been the thief to steal the underpants, but he had to have some relation with the large black dog. Otherwise, how could that damned dog have possibly handed his spoils over to him? "Milady, I don't know anything about any damned dog. I am innocent," the full wind's celestial king lamented plaintively, feeling so wronged and aggrieved. With the pride of a celestial king, he should not have submitted at all, but celestial king Ling Miao was clearly the kind that was incredibly rash, and was presently in a moment of fury, so what reason could she have now? If he argued, what if he got killed? Wouldn't he have died for nothing? This kind of death was really too meaningless. Therefore, he had to survive, and then find out the reason why. Pa! 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 Celestial King Ling Miao continued to wave her hand, slap after slap raining down on the full wind's celestial king's face. Her conduct was always simple and rough. If you didn't submit, she would simply beat you into submission. If you didn't speak, then she would simply beat you into talking. The Green Wolf Celestial King and Celestial King Yuanfang were both stunned, confused, and flustered because from a certain aspect, they belonged to the same group as the Full Wind's Celestial King. If the Full Wind's Celestial King would rather die than submit, then wouldn't they also be beaten? Better you die than us, so you had best quickly confess. The two great Celestial Kings were both looking at the Full Wind's Celestial King expectantly, hoping that he would quickly speak. Fuck! The Full Wind's Celestial King instantly felt an urge to commit murder. What kind of expression are you two wearing? Finally, Lu Hairong snapped out of it. She bowed respectfully towards Celestial King Ling Miao, and said, "Lady Ling Miao, Hairong asks to be excused." It was apparent that she knew Celestial King Ling Miao. Though Celestial King Ling Miao was still fuming in rage, she was very kind towards Lu Hairong. Nodding, she said, "Go on." Lu Hairong descended, and stretching out her hand, she grabbed Hu Niu, Ling Han, and all the others. Then, with a flash of her figure, she was already far away. The Green Wolf Celestial King and Celestial King Yuanfang were both anxious. They wanted to break into a run in pursuit, but there was an eighth heaven Celestial King standing just right there. She had not yet spoken to excuse them, so how could they possibly dare to take one step beyond the limit? Thus, they could only watch helplessly from where they were. Chapter 2096 Yin Soul Valley. Chapter 2096 Yin Soul Valley. Lu Hairong brought Ling Han and the others with her as she left, streaking through the air. With an eighth heaven Celestial King standing guard, everything naturally progressed incredibly smoothly. After traveling 3 days in a row, Lu Hairong finally stopped. She had no choice but to stop, as Hu Niu was determined to eat. Now that a glutton's appetite had been stirred, it was completely impossible to stop. They then sought out a place for a meal. Lu Hairong did not speak all this while, because she felt slightly apologetic towards Ling Han. When they had been sniped by the Four Seas Palace, it was Ling Han who had protected Hu Niu. Otherwise, there would be nothing left for her to do. But previously, under the coercion of the three great celestial kings, she had chosen to give Ling Han up. Though the danger had been dealt with now, she still felt slightly awkward. "Next, should we first go to the Yin Soul Valley, or find the treasure?" Hu Niu asked as she ate, seeming to be very excited. "Next, should we?" Xiao Gu echoed her while he ate. "Don't snatch Niu's stuff." Hu Niu was anxious. This damned Xiao Gu was actually grabbing the meat that she loved, and she hurriedly went to guard the food. "Don't snatch Niu's stuff." Xiao Gu also went to guard the food. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh, and said, "We had best head to the Yin Soul Valley first." All of them had reached peak stage Yang Soul. Without breaking through to Yin Soul, every day passed would simply be a waste of time. "Sure," Hu Niu declared with a clap of her hands. Lu Hairong's expression was a little dark. She was a great celestial king, but not one of these people actually even had any signs of asking for her opinion. However, firstly, Hu Niu was stubborn, and secondly, Lu Hairong was also curious about Xiao Gu's origins, so her attention was focused on Xiao Gu. The Empress drew out the map, and after a while of searching, she pointed at a spot on the map, announcing, "The closest Yin Soul Valley is at the dark forest. If we rush, we will need about half a month's time, but if we were escorted by Senior Lu, 2 to 4 hours should be enough," Ling Han said with a grin. "Ugly hag, we'll leave after eating," Hu Niu immediately declared, sounding angry. This old demonic woman had actually planned to sacrifice Ling Han. Lu Hairong could only nod in response. In front of Hu Niu, she, a fourth heaven celestial king, did not even dare show the slightest bit of temper. Even if Lu Hairong had not displayed any domineering air, a celestial king was ultimately still a celestial king. Carelessly leaking out a sliver of aura was already incredibly frightening. Thus, though there were quite a number of exquisitely beautiful women at their table, no one dared to approach and hit on them. Their meal went very smoothly. In Ling Han's eyes, this was a very inconceivable matter because they would encounter some kind of problem when they were dining at a restaurant most of the time. With a turn of Lu Hairong's slender hand, she brought them with her, and they continued their journey. The speed of a celestial king was too fast. Only after 2 hours, they had already arrived at the dark forest. "Next, it will be up to you all," Lu Hairong said. "Once you all have broken through, come to this place. I will be waiting here." After saying this, she already disappeared from sight with a flash. She was really in a hurry, coming or leaving. "Let's go too!" Hu Niu took the lead, energetic as always. Ling Han smiled, and walked off, holding hands with the Empress. Meanwhile, bewitching maiden Ro followed behind them like a sulking wife. Xiao Gu acted dim, just like a silly goose. The dark forest had always been very lively. This place was rich in herb called numbing cloud's mushroom. Though it had not reached the extent of celestial medicine, it was a supplementary ingredient that could not be missed in the concoction of a great many celestial pills, and it was only capable of growing here. Hence, there frequently were people who came to harvest herbs here. In fact, because of the needs of herb gatherers, a small town had been slowly built in the forest, providing a place of rest for the herb gatherers, also shielding them from the elements. After about a day, they arrived at this small town. There was no need to pay protection fees upon entering the town, but everything in the town was extraordinarily expensive, including accommodations. However, if one chose to rent accommodations, the innkeeper would ensure your safety, but if you chose to camp outside and hide in your spatial god tool, there might be a sword stabbing directly at you the moment you left your spatial god tool. Ling Han and the others left after only walking around the town. They had not come to gather numbing clouds mushrooms, but had come to enter into the depths of the dark forest. There was a Yin Soul Valley there. Hence, this forest was even livelier. There would always be young soul elites coming here, heading into the Yin Soul Valley to proceed with their breakthrough. Another 3 days later, Ling Han and the others finally arrived at the entrance into Yin Soul Valley. Ordinarily, there were 3 great beauties in Ling Han's party, and should have attracted some pesky bugs, but how could those who came here to collect herbs be any kind of elite? Thus, dividing soul tier was definitely considered a great elite here, and who among them would dare come and court death? It would be different once they entered into the Yin Soul Valley. They had all come for the sake of breaking through to Yin Soul, and all of them had the same cultivation level, so it was naturally inevitable that there would be some that wanted to fool around. After Ling Han killed quite a few people in a row, finally no one dared to have any more inappropriate thoughts. They traveled again for a few days, and a deep pool appeared ahead of them. The pool waters were dark green and so deep that the bottom could not be seen. This place was called the Jade Pool, and was the most yin-aligned location. Furthermore, there was something called Yin Soul Jade that would be nurtured inside this pool. It was the same as the Yang Soul Stone. Once it was fused into your spirit, you would then be able to form a spiritual body. But how could the Yin Soul Jade be obtained from the Jade Pool? Naturally, it was impossible to dive in. It was said that even an ascending origin tier elite would be frozen to death by the coldness, and only a celestial king would be able to endure it. However, how could anyone possibly get the help of a celestial king just for the breakthrough of a young soul? Of course, it was impossible that this was the only way. Yang souls similarly could still obtain the Yin Soul Jade. It would require cultivators to communicate through their own divine sense. If they succeeded, the Yin Soul Jade would fly out of the water on its own. Then, could you draw it out first, and then hand it over to another? No way. Once it fell into the hands of another, the Yin Soul Jade would automatically crumble. Thus, due to this aspect, it would be useless even if they could get the help of a celestial king. At the banks of the Jade Pool, there were a great many people seated in a cross-legged position. They were all concentrating on communicating with the Yin Soul Jade in the pool. There were indeed a lot of people. Some were seated very far back, while some were seated very close to the front. It could not be helped. The cold air from the pool was soaring, and there were powerful regulations of water contained within this coldness. Even a Yang Soul monarch could not possibly walk up to the pool. They would have long since been frozen into an icicle. It was said that the closer to the pool of water that one managed to stimulate the Yin Soul Jade, the higher the quality of Yin Soul Jade that they would obtain. Come on then. Ling Han and his party all walked forwards, while Xiao Gu roamed around, idling his time away, and trying to find a new target for imitating speech. Even the weakest of the four of them was an Emperor tier, and could be ranked into the upper echelons of Emperor tiers at that. Thus it was natural that they passed all the others, and arrived at the foremost position. After all, how could there be so many Emperor tiers and Monarch tiers in this world? In fact, there were only a very limited number of even just King tiers. If some kind of gathering of cultivators was held, or a mystery realm that would only open once every 100 million years opened, only then would there be various prodigies popping out, and as many King tiers as stray dogs. These four people are really powerful. They have already walked to the very front. This natural talent, TSK, they are probably all King tiers. This makes me so envious. A King tier could suppress his peers, and was high and noble, which naturally induced the envy of others. That should probably be their limit by now. Everyone was staring at Ling Han and his party, and made their judgment. That should probably be the limit of King tiers. But the four people did not look like they were going to stop there in the slightest. Heavens, why are they still walking forwards? Could it be, they are not King tiers, but rather Emperor tiers? Chapter 2097 Stimulating the Yin Soul Jade. Chapter 2097 Stimulating the Yin Soul Jade. Emperor tier. Everyone's faces were filled with shock. Even those that had been concentrating on stimulating the Yin Soul Jade stopped. They could stimulate the Yin Soul Jade later, but it was not every day that they could see an Emperor tier. Emperor tier can still be invincible against an opponent that is superior by a whole minor level. They can reign supreme even among Yin souls. Heavens, even if I broke through, I would not be a match for them now. Sigh, why is the gap between people so overwhelmingly massive? A great many people were defiant. They all had to cultivate, so why would there be such a colossal disparity in their battle prowess? Don't be short-sighted. For them to manage to attain this level, who knows how much hard work and effort they have exerted? It is definitely not something that can be explained away just by the words natural talent. Someone was still very objective, and said a very pertinent line. Quite a number of people nodded their heads to express agreement. The path of cultivation was difficult, and becoming an Emperor tier definitely could not be summed up as simply as the words, natural talent. Look, they are not stopping yet, someone exclaimed, pointing at Ling Han and his group. This. I heard that Tianhe had once reached 90 meters away from the pool in the past. Tianhe, he is no ordinary Emperor tier, but can be ranked in the top 3 even among Emperor tiers. There is definitely no way that they can compare to Tianhe. Of course. Numerous people were making cynical remarks. The majority of people could not bear seeing someone better than them. However, Ling Han and his group had already walked closer and closer to the 90-meter point from the pool, which was a solid slap in these people's faces. They're about to catch up to Tianhe. Heavens, there are actually as many as 4 such existences. This is inconceivable. Ling Han and his group walked a few more steps, and Bewitching Maiden Ro was the first to reach her limits. She had no choice but to stop. Even so, she had reached the 84-meter point from the pool, a whole 6 meters further than that so-called Tianhe. This had completely thrown those around them over in shock, all of them gaping widely. In their eyes, Tianhe was a top-notch prodigy, and it was definitely impossible for him to be surpassed. Yet now, all of a sudden, there were 7 people that had surpassed him, which naturally led to all of them being stunned to numbness. But Ling Han, the Empress, and Hun Yo were still walking forwards, continuing to break the limits of acceptance of the masses. When they arrived at the 45-meter point, the Empress's and Hun Yo's speed also began to slow. Even they were feeling pressure at this point, and the blood flow in their bodies was clearly slowing down. Once the blood flow completely stopped flowing, that meant the regulations of water had completely crumbled their bodies, and they were dead. The 2 women activated their respective bloodlines, and continued to walk forwards. 42 meters, 33 meters, 27 meters, 21 meters, 15 meters. Finally, they stopped altogether. If they took one step further, they would be completely frozen stiff, and that would be seeking their own demise. The 2 women felt a little regret at this, yet the others were dumbfounded. 15 meters. Monarch tier! And it's a top-grade monarch tier at that. I have heard Tianhe mention that only monarch tiers would be qualified to walk within 30 meters of the pool, and in the case of 15 meters, that would be the limit of all monarch tiers. But that guy has already walked to the 12-meter point. Everyone was in shock, watching dumbly as Ling Han continued his way forwards. Heavens, is this guy planning to walk right up to the pool in one go? Impossible! Absolutely impossible! That would really be heaven-defying. That's right. I don't believe that such a freak would exist either. 15 meters. Ling Han finally stopped walking, which also made the masses sigh in relief. This guy had ultimately not defied the heavens. So this was his limit? Ling Han thought. His physique added with the power of regulation he had grasped only allowed him to walk until this point. At this moment, aside from blood still circulating in his heart, his whole body had already been frozen completely. If he took another step further, that would only be suicide. Fire and water were incompatible, so could he use the 9 heavens flame? Ling Han pondered, but then immediately shook his head. Water and fire were incompatible, but they also corresponded with each other. For example, while a massive primordial wave could extinguish a great fire, what about a cup of water? To this pool, the 9 heavens flame would be a cup of fire, and would not be able to have the effect that it should have. Who knew, maybe it would instead anger this pool, and cause great trouble if one could use divine sense to stimulate the Yin Soul Jade at the bottom of the pool. Why couldn't it be angered? It could not be helped. The 9 heavens flame was still too weak now. Then what about the Xianin source water? With a thought from Ling Han, the Xianin source water was immediately stimulated, and began channeling inside his body. The effect produced instantaneous results. The blood that had already stopped flowing in his body began circulating again, and his frozen stiff body was also gradually becoming warmer, so he raised his foot and took another step. Heavens! Seeing this scene, everyone was grabbing their head and exclaiming in shock. Just what had they seen? A miracle! Ling Han did not stop walking. The further forwards he walked, the warmer his body became. With the help of the Xianin source water, it was as if he had been immersed into the pool. Thus, no matter how frightening the coldness exuding from this pool was, it could no longer harm him. In simpler terms, he had already been assimilated with the regulations of water here. 6 meters. 3 meters. Ling Han was still walking forwards, and finally stopped at the edge of the pool. If he walked even the slightest bit further, that would be the extremely icy waters of the pool. This was unprecedented. This was a feat that only celestial kings could accomplish, yet it had actually been accomplished now by a dividing soul tear. Heavens, what kind of freak was this? Ling Han sat down in a cross-legged position. He couldn't care to be concerned about what the others were thinking. If he could stimulate the Yin Soul Jade from this distance, the dividing soul that he manifested would be the strongest among Yin souls. He unleashed his divine sense, which spread out endlessly. When the divine sense spread out, it was naturally solid, but when it headed into the direction of the pool waters, his divine sense encountered a block. No, the word block was not very appropriate. It should be compared to a layer of mud that caused his divine sense to make progress only with great difficulty. And at this moment he could see multiple crystalline rocks around the pool. This was the Yin Soul Jade. If his divine sense attained resonance with one of them, that Yin Soul Jade would fly out of the pool on its own volition, and become the bearer of his second divided soul. However, Ling Han had no intention to stop, but rather unfurled his divine sense to continue further downwards. The reason he had walked to the pool was for the sake of obtaining the best Yin Soul Jade, and the best Yin Soul Jade was naturally at the greatest depths of the pool. How could he possibly be satisfied with only that? He continued further downwards, and it was extremely difficult. This was too exhaustive for divine sense. Not long had passed, and Ling Han felt spiritually exhausted. He wanted nothing more than to just flop down and sleep. But if he did fall asleep, all his previous efforts would be wasted. How could that be allowed? Ling Han gritted his teeth, and headed downwards dauntlessly. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. With every instant that passed, Ling Han felt like he had reached his limits, but he still forcefully broke through his own limitations repeatedly, breaking previous records. He could see the bottom now. Ling Han felt a little numb, but right at this moment, he spotted the bottom of the pool. There was only a single jade there, and it was exuding a gentle light of bluish green. Ling Han immediately had the feeling that this was the Yin Soul Jade that he had been searching for. He extended his divine sense, which bulldozed towards that Yin Soul Jade. Boom! His divine sense crashed into the rock. There was clearly no actual physical contact, yet he felt his whole body tremble, and felt like his head was about to be split apart. So tough. Ordinarily, divine sense was shapeless, and could pass through everything, so why couldn't it do the same with this rock? This should be the reason why it was capable of becoming a container for a divided soul. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.